Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you, sister?
I'm okay, brother. Long time no see.
Yes, sister. Now, okay, sister, we're going to get straight into it.
Sister?
I have a very prickly question to ask you. And that is there food ready? Because I'm bloody starving.
No.
Well, get off the line and start cooking, woman. Yeah,
it's Valentine's Day. You can cook for me today.
Valentine's Day. All right, guys. So I brought my wife on because just to give you a bit of an intro, a bit of a background. My wife that's on right now, she's my third wife. And when I say third wife, when I married her, I already had 2 wives, and she was the third. Okay, I married her 4 years ago, exactly 4 years ago, and she never thought she would agree to get into a polygynous setup, a polygynous relationship, whereby she's a second wife or third wife for that matter. But she did, and she ended up with me, choosing me as a husband. So I thought it'd be very beneficial to bring my wife on because she has first-hand experience of the roller coaster emotions that are involved in polygyny. Roller coaster emotions. And it is a roller coaster. And I wanted the ladies, the sisters, Mona, your Wi-Fi is rubbish. Oh yeah, I forgot you're on my live, sorry.
My Wi-Fi is your Wi-Fi, so wait.
Right. And I wanted you to hear from the horse's mouth firsthand of the ups and downs, lefts and right, what it actually feels like, and also what type of man a man must become in order for a woman to accept it. It's very important, and nobody's talking about this. No one is talking about this. We keep talking about the women and how they don't like it and they don't accept it, but we're not digging deeper. Ask better questions, you get better answers, and that's what we're going to do today, inshallah. So, Mona, are you ready?
Yeah.
The first question that I need to ask you, Mona, is why on earth would you consider marrying an abusive, wife-beating man? What were you thinking?
It sounds like I've got issues. No, first of all, I don't consider you an abusive wife beater. That's how I don't consider you. And I knew all of this. I knew everything before marrying you. I know it's, you know, everyone makes mistakes, and you're not an abusive husband. So for me, I don't see you like that.
I'm generally not an abusive husband.
No, I mean,
abusive sometimes.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you've done it once. It's in the past. You've paid, you know, you've paid your dues. You've been punished for it. That's it. Moving on. We've moved on from that. And that's it. So I don't see you as an abusive husband. It's quite funny when I see this all the time, these comments. It's just nonsense.
Good. Inshallah. So, okay, getting down to the crux of the matter now. You pointed out to me, because, and for the audience watching, whenever I come off my lives and there have been questions that the ladies have thrown at me, I like to cross them with my wife afterwards to try and get a better understanding how the mind of a woman works, because I can't understand how women think sometimes. No cap.
So what made you want me on your live? Because we were discussing the other day.
Yeah.
When was it? Wednesday, Friday?
Yeah.
Is it the next day we were talking about it, or the same night?
I think it was the same night. And the one question that I asked you, sorry, that you brought to my attention was, you said to me, one of the sisters said to you, Mahdi, how can I cope better if my husband decides to marry again? And you pointed out a few things there. I wanted you to elaborate on that.
Oh, I don't know where to start, really. Can you narrow it down?
Just to refresh your memory, what my response was he needs to command respect from her by being a high value man. But you said to me, but Mahdi, that's not empowering the woman with resources that she can use or things that she can do to take back power. So she's not just relying on him. Because the truth of the matter is, there's plenty of low value men who get married again.
I mean, most men are average. So when we're talking about average, an average man. You're very right. If you can command respect, if he's a high value man, she's more likely. I'm not saying she will like it, but she's more likely to have a better perspective. Yeah, let's say no one likes it. I don't think any woman likes her husband to get another wife. I mean, even the Prophet ﷺ's wives, they used to get jealous, they used to get upset. It's just natural. It's actually not natural if the woman doesn't care. It's actually, there's something wrong there in the marriage. She tells you, go ahead, go get married, I don't care. There might be something wrong in your marriage. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you pointed that out.
So the reason why I had comments from about last live you had, I felt like this can only come from a woman's perspective, because I've been through it myself. Although I'm not the first wife, I came in as a third. I came into something already established, knowing that the man I'm marrying already loves 2 other women, right? So anyway, I don't know, I lost it now.
Okay,
What were
so
you talking about?
well, okay, and again, I want to, as best as possible, when I ask you questions, try your best not to say anything that might come across as disparaging to the previous wives, because
No, I'm not
I
going to
want
do that. No.
try and keep that to that side.
Yeah.
But how did you? What was the feeling? What went through your mind when you decided to consider marrying a man and become his third wife, no less? Considering that polygyny was something that was totally off the cards for you before, what changed? What was it?
Well, I was never against it, so I've never been against polygyny. I understand it's part of our religion. You know that you have rights that we don't have. We have rights that you don't have, and this is one of the rights Allah has given you. And who am I to contradict that? So I was never against it.
Okay.
I never thought I'd be in it, or I never thought that Allah would put me in a situation where this is written for me. So when I lost my husband 6 years before marrying you, so that's 10 years ago, I briefly considered it as an option because I already had 3 children. It's just sometimes you idealize the idea of polygyny. He's not here all the time. You're part-time wife. You can do things for yourself. You can see your friends. You can work. You can do whatever you like during the days he's not there. And then, especially if you've been married before, you've had your children. It sounds like a good option for you, right?
Right.
As a woman.
But was it your first choice, or was it not your first choice?
No.
So again, because I want the brothers to understand, and it's going to sound like I'm coming across as polishing my halo, and I apologize because that's not what I'm trying to do to the audience watching. But what type of man must the man be in order for him to be attractive to women when they know that he's already married? What type of man must he become so that the gentlemen know? We'll get to the ladies after.
So that's in my experience. Of course, everyone has different experiences. But when I first, my first interaction or my first experience with polygamy was years ago. I was introduced to it by a friend who wanted me to marry her husband, and that didn't work out. I had a very, very negative experience. It was negative for everyone. I don't want to go into details, but that was 10 years ago, about 10 years ago. And after that, I said, I'm not going to consider married men ever again. Forget that. It's idealized, but in reality, it's difficult. So I'm not going to do that. And then I came across you, and I knew, and I knew all the bad things, all these things that you're talking about regarding your ex-wives, etc., without going into details.
The domestic violence and so on.
Yeah, I knew all of that because I know your family. I've known your family for years, right?
Right.
I've known your family. So already I knew the family. So I knew you came from a stable, good family, right? I love your mom. I knew your mom before I knew you. I knew your sisters before I knew you. Yeah. So I had already a good, positive impression of your family as a wholesome, educated, nice, stable family.
So would you say then that it's important for a woman to look at the family of a man she's considering to marry?
100%.
Okay. That's point number 1.
Yeah. Because likewise, a woman who's brought up in a chaotic household will most likely repeat the patterns because this is what she's familiar with. A man, likewise, if he comes from a you know, chaotic. Maybe it comes from a background of divorce, of whatever. It will come. You know, he will be more or less the same.
So
More or
you
less the same. It's very important.
chaotic patterns. So would you say it's fair to say that we tend to, because we've spoken about this, I know, but for the benefit of the audience, that we tend to repeat the patterns in our adult life that we were exposed to in our childhood?
Absolutely, because this is what we're familiar with. So if we're familiar with stability, mom and dad, you know, maybe boring, but you know, stable life, we're more likely to be okay with that kind of lifestyle. So I come from a very stable family. My mom and dad still together. For me, this is what's normal.
Right.
They rarely fought. They had arguments maybe once a year, you know, like nothing dramatic as well. This is how I grew up. So for me,
Right.
this is familiar. Familiarity for me is to have a peaceful life.
Right.
So I knew that about you. I knew that about your family. And I have to say, I made an exception for you. I think there were many qualities I liked about you. And therefore, I of course asked Allah first and foremost for guidance. But I think Allah wrote for us to be married. But going into this with open eyes, though, I was very aware that this is not going to be easy.
Yeah. So after we got married, Mona, after we got married, and then the honeymoon phase had passed, you know, we went away for a week, we had a nice holiday, and then we came back, and then I had to go away on a charity mission, then I came back again, and the honeymoon phase, like the intensity of the honeymoon phase, lasted roughly around 6 weeks, you know, that whole bubble, in my view. Maybe you feel differently, but like the intensity of the feelings, right?
Yeah.
At what point did the classic emotions of jealousy and so on start to come in? Now, bearing in mind, you're the woman who's just come in whilst there's two other women, but that doesn't mean you won't get jealous, right?
Of course,
So
I think.
when did that come in, and how did you deal with it?
So I think in polygynous settings, there will be jealousy from all parts. People think that the one coming in might feel less jealous, or you know, the first one. Probably the first one feels it the most because she's had him for years, so she's had the man to herself for many years, and then comes a new woman into the scene. So of course it's different than being the woman who comes in for, you know, to the scene. But I think jealousy is for everyone. It doesn't matter what number you are. You can feel that, okay, the first one's established, she's like the main wife. You come in, you're like, okay, what role am I playing here in your life? Or for example, you can, if you don't have children with the person, but someone else has children, you know, he has a family with her. I mean, jealousy comes in all sorts of shapes and forms for everyone. Even if you look at the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, there's many stories of jealous incidents. So that's normal. Yeah, it's normal.
So how do you, what's your coping mechanism? How did you cope?
I think
how did you deal
anyone
with it?
can feel jealous. It comes from your shaitan. We all have a shaitan. He whispers to you. You feel a bit of jealousy. It's the key is not to feed into that jealousy. So you have to go against it. You can
Define that.
feel it.
What does that mean? What do you
That means
mean
you
by
cannot act
not to
upon
feed
it.
it?
I mean, you feel it, but you don't act upon it. So you have to
Okay.
find ways to like a coping mechanism to go to let that. It's like a burning sensation in your chest, right? It's like a heat, and you have to, with your own words, maybe talk to yourself, put things into perspectives, put things on paper. But that feeling goes. You say, "A'udhu billahi minash
It
shaitanir rajim."
passes.
It passes, but that wave passes. However, if you act on it, so you might be an impulsive person, or you know, it's just if you act upon that jealousy by doing something you know is haram, or you know it's dislike, you know you're being wrong, but you're doing it because you can't see straight. You know, like someone is angry, or if you get angry, jealous, you can't see right. When you feel like that, you have to stop yourself. You have to remember Allah as well. Make du'as. I think that's very important. More practically,
More practically.
practically, you have to put things into perspective. It's very important. If you act upon that jealousy, if you act upon it, most likely afterwards, when you calm down, and you know that high, that emotional high, subsidize. What is it? Goes
Subsides.
down,
Subsides.
subsides. That's it.
Yeah.
You might regret it. You might feel
Right.
bad. You might regret it. It's actually worse for you.
And
So
what,
it's
let's
better
say
to
you do
control.
act upon it. What impact does that have on the husband? Does that make
Yeah,
him
exactly.
closer
So
to
not
you or
only
push him away?
are you hurting yourself, you're hurting your relationship, and you're transgressing sometimes against Allah, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what else to say
So,
about this.
from a perspective of the husband, then,
Yeah.
obviously, I made mistakes whilst I had all three of my wives. Particularly after I married you, that's when the house of cards really came tumbling down. Already, it was bad. Like, my situation wasn't great with two, but I was kind of like juggling it okay-ish. But when I married you, the pressure got really intense, and I was not, as I've said many times before, I was not mature enough to handle the situation. Giving it a couple of examples without going into too many details of the other women, of mistakes that I made that contributed towards inflaming your jealousy. This is for the men to hear now. What? Because I believe men have a big hand in this, by the way. Men are like the captains of the ship. You dictate and decide which way the ship sails. All right. Your sailors can say what they like. In this instance, the sailors are your wife. But if you, as the captain, dictate correctly, the ship will eventually reach the correct destination. So, what mistakes did I make that you feel I shouldn't have made, that the brothers watching who maybe are considering this can learn from, so
Yeah.
that they don't make those same mistakes? Give an example. I'm sure there are
So
quite a few.
I'd like to be as respectful as possible and not blame you or bring back the past or anything. I think you were under a lot of stress from both parts. So you were under a lot of stress, and I don't know what you could have done better. But definitely, if the relationships were more stable,
Yeah.
then it would have been easier on my part. I'm not a
Yeah.
very jealous person. I do get jealous, but I'm not a jealous person. So for me to control the jealousy was quite not easy, but I can remain calm.
I'm going to give a more specific example.
Yeah.
Remember that program we watched, Three Wives, One
Yeah.
Husband, of the Mormon Christians in some part of America who had multiple wives, and he was out on his anniversary with one of his wives.
Yeah.
And then another one of the wives started a text fight with him,
Yeah.
which he got sucked into.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, it totally ruined the anniversary dinner he was having with another one of his wives. And I know I've fallen prey to this mistake where one of my wives have sucked me into a fight over text.
Absolutely.
And then I take the bait, I fall for it, and we end up fighting endlessly. And then even once I've gotten off the phone and we finished fighting,
Yeah.
it's taken up real estate space in my mind, in my head. And as a result of that, I was unable to connect with you because my mind is so full of the fight that I just had with one of the other wives.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I was going to
what
mention
advice
that.
would you? Yeah, go on.
Sorry.
Go on.
I was going to mention that show. What is it called? One Husband, Three Wives, about Mormons, right?
Three Wives, One Husband. Yeah. It's on
Three
Channel
Wives,
4.
One Husband. Yeah. It's a good documentary. If anyone is interested, you should watch it. It's very interesting how they cope with it, and sometimes better than a lot of Muslims, to be honest. But anyway, you reminded me of a lot of instances where you'd have arguments with one or the other, and it would trickle to us. So either you'd be absent-minded, so you'd be thinking about solutions or how to deal with that problem. Or you'd be texting, or you'd be on the phone. At first I didn't mind, I tried to be understanding. I mean, I just came into this, and I understand it's very sensitive, and I understand that there's a lot of drama going on, and you have to deal with it. What I need to remind ladies always is that that's not it's the woman coming in. It's not her business, you see.
How do you mean? Explain that. Elaborate on that.
So the new woman coming in is not responsible for your marriages, because that's your responsibility. That's your responsibility to make it work. The same way as you can't blame the one coming in for ruining your relationship, because you are the one responsible for it, not the
Right.
new person.
Right.
So in your case, yeah, there were instances where it would take over the whole weekend, for example. These arguments take over. You have to go make phone calls, you have to text and all of that. And it used to affect me after a while, especially if we have to walk around, on eggshells around the other wives, or we can't go there because this, or we can't do this, we can't do that. That did annoy me at times.
Right.
It did. I think men, if you're going to go into polygamy, you have to be very strong in terms of separating. Okay, separating the time you are with one woman to the other. Separating.
And I'll just to jump in there real quick, Mona.
Yeah.
To the gentleman, one of the mistakes that I made a lot was I wasn't familiar with the whole concept of shit testing, competency testing, okay? And women vary on how often they will do this, okay? But there are some women who like to do it a lot. They like to make you jump through hoops to almost like qualify yourself in their eyes. And particularly in a polygynous setup, those type of women do it even more. And one mistake I kept on making over and over again, and as a result, it affected my marriage with Mona, is I kept on taking the damn bait. I kept falling for it over and over. And I'd get into these endless text arguments over. I can't even remember what we would fight about. I really can't remember. That's how meaningless it was. I cannot remember.
Oh, you'd come back. Sorry to interrupt you. Go on, carry on. Sorry.
I cannot remember what we were fighting about, if you are to ask me now. But we had those text fights whilst I'm with my wife here in Luton. I'm with her and I'm having these text fights there, not realizing that all the while the intention, or well, I don't want to presume what their intentions were, but let's take it back to the Mormon program. One of the wives admitted, I got into a text fight with him just so that I could ruin his anniversary with the other wife. She actually said it. And props to her for admitting it. So gentlemen, you have to be wary of this. When it comes to the time that you spend with the different wives, you have to be really militant on dividing that time and not allowing time from this one to seep into this one and vice versa, because then it becomes a mess. If you have a rule, for example, after 8 p.m., no phone calls, no text. I don't care. Unless someone's dying, don't message me, right? You better make sure you stick to that rule, because if you don't, you will pay the consequences, which is what happened to me. Sometimes the women wouldn't necessarily try to pick a fight with me after 8 p.m. No, they tried to do something different, like sweet talk me or maybe send me a picture. And I know even one of you listening to this might be difficult for you, but this is the reality. And if you take that bait and you break your own boundary, guess what? You failed her competency test. You failed her shit test. And now she loses respect for you. You're thinking, oh yeah, I messaged her back. That's going to make her happy. No, you failed. I failed.
Can I add something to that? It would be also if you came back from the other wife and she picked a fight with you just before going out, coming to me. So you'd come in a certain state of mind. Either you're thinking about it or like you're upset or and the key is to not react. So me as a woman, I had to really try not to react to these, like you call them, shit tests, because I knew what was going on. Although I wouldn't do it myself, I knew exactly what was going on. You have to always remember to take it calm and turn it the other way around, like using your advantage rather than react to it, because if you react in a bad way, you're ruining the whole weekend.
How do you use it to your advantage? I'm sure the ladies would like to hear that.
You make a joke out of it, or because some women do things on purpose to make you jealous. Like it might be a phone call, it might be something they leave on you, like a lipstick mark or
a love bite. That happened to me a few times. Yeah.
Anything to, they know you're going to the
I'll
wife.
just say for the benefit of the audience, sometimes one of my wives would leave a mark on my neck,
Yeah.
knowing that I'm about to go to another wife. Like,
Or just before you get out of the house, with red lipstick, a quick kiss like that, and you don't look at yourself in the mirror, so you so you end up coming with a big mark on your face you didn't even realize.
Right.
So the key here is to not react, or react a little bit, not over dramatize and react too much, because then you've allowed the other one to seep into your relationship and win basically.
Right. And then she wins, right?
She
So
wins,
the
and she
key is
ruins
no
the whole,
reaction, no
and
reaction.
the whole evening is ruined, or the whole weekend is ruined. It's not worth it. Like, you have very limited time with your husband when you're sharing him. You have to take advantage of that time you have together and keep it, you know, keep it sweet and fun, and it's easier said than done, though, because if you're in a bad mood, or if it catches you in a certain mood,
Yeah,
then it's hard to control reacting.
and ignoring is actually one of the laws of power. When you ignore someone, you show no reaction, not happy, you're not sad, you essentially cast them to oblivion. It tells them you're so unimportant to me that you were unable to even register a reaction from me, and that is the worst type of punishment.
It's true, and you have to remember,
be served upon those type of people.
You have to remember that that was done from a place of insecurity. That was not done from a place of confidence. Otherwise, you don't need to do all of this.
Right.
You know.
So
we
you're
have
saying
to.
The woman is insecure, which is why she would do these things.
Of course, yeah. You have to remind yourself, okay, why is she doing this? She wants to make you angry. She wants to make you jealous. She wants to. There's something behind that. Why? Why is she consumed with you? She's consumed with you, your existence. So you can't do the same thing. You shouldn't consume yourself with her existence. Her marriage is her marriage. Your marriage is your marriage. Focus on yourself, on your own marriage. And you can't get, you know, it's easy to get tempted to start spying on the husband. Start, you know, check his phone, check what he's doing, where he's going, when he's coming, when he's texting, all of that. And I say, you know, you must have more important things to do with your life than worry about what he's doing, where he's going, who's texting, and all of that.
So,
I think
I have a question to you, Mona. For the sisters, and I just saw one of the comments here, should such personal matters be discussed on social media? This is the very problem with us in the Muslim community. We're so conservative. We're so concerned about our reputation and our honor, to the point where you're trying to put up this fake facade of what you are. My friend, people can see straight through you. And I would rather benefit the people with the experiences I have been through and my wife has been through, so that they don't make the same mistakes. It is selfish if you have something that can benefit the people and you choose not to share it. So yes, such personal matters must be discussed. Now, I have a question to you, Mona. Some of the ladies watching this may have taken in this information and been like, that's juicy. I'm going to do that to my husband if he gets married again. So with that being the case, to those sisters who may have registered what we've spoken about in that way, what advice would you give them if they are thinking, right, I'm going to start using these tricks. I'm going to mark him up. I'm going to get into a text fight with him to consume space in his mind. I think you're the other woman.
You will be the loser. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting your relationship. And you're transgressing against Allah as well. If you spy on him, if you talk badly about his wife to other people, or if you make up a slander, or you're only hurting yourself. In the long run, you might get satisfaction in the short term, satisfaction of ruining their evening, but in the long run, it will only come back to you. Being devious and doing all these tricks can only be a detriment to you as a person, and to your relationship, and to your deen, and so it's only nothing good can come out of this.
And
that's why
eventually, just to add to that, you probably won't have a marriage on your hands in the end.
That's it, exactly. You're ruining your own relationship, because what goes around comes around. I mean, you can plot and plan and plot and everything, but in the end, Allah knows your intention, and it always comes back to you. So
I have a question for you, Mona. and again, this is for the sisters to hear firsthand. And if you have questions, put them in the question box. We will get to them. You can ask either Mona or myself. And that question is, you know that me, as your husband, that I fully intend on marrying again in the future, inshallah ta'ala, not so distant future. Only Allah knows when, but you know this. And you also know that I intend on marrying sisters who are younger than myself, probably in their 20s. Okay? So I want you to share with the sisters, number one, how does that make you feel? And number two, how do you deal with that, knowing that that's my mindset?
So I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm all happy and, you know, that I'm accepting for Allah's sake, but it doesn't mean I like it. Yeah. So, of course, I wouldn't like you to get married again, but I have to accept this is a reality. And the sooner we can get, you know, the sooner we can accept certain realities of life, the better our life will be, because there's no point me pretending here that, you know, Mahdi's all mine and, you know, no one, he will never want to marry again or anything like that. Entering this marriage with you, I knew already that you might marry again because I came in as a third. I'm not like, if I accept it for myself, for other women, I have to accept it for myself. I can't be a hypocrite here and sit down and say, you know, I know he can't marry after me or anything like that. I entered this as the third wife,
right? And
I entered this as a widow, which is, according to most Muslims, and you know, acceptable to marry a widow. Isn't that right? They always say, you know, if you go into polygamy, you have to marry a widow or divorcee or poor or from the war zones, or it's more accepted. But the reality
they've
is,
got greater sympathy towards it. But just to make it perfectly clear,
yeah, it
brothers and
doesn't
sisters
matter.
alike, it doesn't have to be.
No, I know, but it doesn't matter. It makes no difference. It made no difference to me being a widow. I was not accepted. It was not. It was not. There was no empathy.
As harsh repercussions.
Yeah. There was no empathy or anything like that, or thinking,
That's
oh,
a good
she's a
point.
widow.
That's a good point there, and the point she's making is very relevant, because a lot of the sisters say, well, if she's a widow and you know she needs help and so on, then maybe it's okay. But my wife that you can hear on this live now, she came in as a widow, right? She fit that bill perfectly, and still she suffered the exact same backlash that
any woman
would suffer. It really makes no difference. And when women say this, they're just making excuses. They're just trying to make the barrier of entry higher. That's all they're doing. They're trying to eliminate as many options as possible so that it's more difficult for the husband to find a woman. The truth of the matter is, even if he ticks all of those boxes, jumps through all of those hoops, she'll still be mad. And this is what I say to the brothers, gentlemen, check your women. You need to put them in their place, because they're just trying to make you jump through hoops to delay the inevitable. And the more hoops that you jump through, the less respect she has for you. Women have a Mona, you said it the other day, a slightly masochistic relationship with being checked. They like being checked by men. They like being put back in their place. It's an indication that he's a man, you know. This man is not a yes man. He's not just gonna fall subservient to my every single request. No, this man has a mind of his own, and he's going somewhere, and he doesn't care about my petty outbursts and rages and crying and so on.
Yeah, the more you pay attention to these, I would call them tantrums, the more you get sucked in, and the more they'll do it, because it's like, oh, I got a reaction out of him, or I got what I wanted, throwing a tantrum, so let me do it again and again and again. That's it. It works.
And gentlemen, I want you to pay attention. You're hearing my wife. She's a woman. You're hearing her tell you, you need to check your women. Carry on, Mona.
That's not what I said, but okay.
You said it.
To answer your question, so how do I feel? I'm gonna be honest, I don't like it. I don't like the idea of it. But I'm a realist, and I know life. You don't know what life's how. I never thought I'd be a widow. I never thought I'd marry as a third wife. There's many things that happen in life that were not according to your script or your life plan. So you have to understand as a woman that this could happen to you, or it could happen to your daughters or your granddaughters or your sisters, or it's getting more and more common that women are in polygynous settings, It's happening more and more often now that women are requesting or are proposing to married men.
Yes.
I know if you're married, it might sound scary and you might feel like, oh God, well, you might feel safe in your marriage, but you never know what the future holds. What I could say is that it's difficult for us women to understand how you men think, because you are different to us. We are different.
And I wanted to elaborate on that, actually. Sorry to cut you, Mona. But I wanted to talk about when a woman says, if you truly loved me, you wouldn't marry again. Can you build on that?
Yeah, I think that's nonsense, to be honest. It's so it's difficult for us women to understand, because when we love a man, generally, we love that one man. So if I were to look for someone else, that means I don't love you. Whereas for you men, we need to understand that men are not like women, and men can have the ability to love more than one woman. And him marrying again does not mean that he will love you less, or that he will stop loving you or desiring you or wanting you. That's very hard for us to understand. I think we project our own kind of
how you would feel,
how we would feel. So I feel like, if I were to marry someone else, that means I don't love you anymore.
If you were to want to do that.
Yeah. But because you're a man and you're different to us, you can love multiple women.
Right.
And
so would you say making peace with nature, natural law?
The sooner you can do that, the sooner you can live a more peaceful life. Because even if you're married and you think you're safe in your marriage, oh, he's never going to get married, you don't know. One day he might come to you and say, you know what, I'm thinking of getting another wife. It could happen to you. What do you do then? What do you do? Do you break up? What do you do? Do you stay in your marriage? Do you, I've got a book that I would recommend to anyone, even if your husband never mentions it. He might do it in the future. I'll give it to you to post on your page later. It's called From Monogamy to Polygyny.
Be careful with the camera.
Okay. So I think this book is very balanced in the sense that it shows you that no woman, no matter how, when and where her husband even mentions polygyny, is she happy. She can come to peace with it. She can acknowledge that this is your nature as men, that you love women and you're like you said, procreative. So you want, this is how Allah made you. And there's also research. There's this Dr. Lawrence Kirsten.
Right.
He argues that women are more likely to fall out of love than men. Men have more difficulty recovering from a broken relationship than women.
Wow.
So you're able not only to love more than one woman, you're more likely to stay in love more than we are, according to research. It's not my words, it's research. Right?
Well, that's very interesting. And I've mentioned this before. We had this discussion, and I've said it on one of my stories, but I'll refresh for the guys watching now. And that is, there is a theory, and you mentioned this, Dr. Kirsten, that women do get over long-term relationships quicker than men. And the reason being is, historically, men go to war, right?
Yeah.
As a result of that, men die. That means lots of women suddenly become widows. So women have had to adapt throughout the millennia with the notion, the idea of their husband dying and them having to move on and marry another man. And in times of old, don't think how we're living comfortably now. This is how it always was. No, in times of old, women really relied on a man for her survival.
Yeah.
So women needed to quickly move on with their emotions and pair up with another man so that she can secure the survival of herself
and her children.
Offspring.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So you're saying men can often take longer
to recover.
Fascinating.
Well, in polygyny, according to this book, From Monogamy to Polygyny, the author says that in most cases, love deepens and is more meaningful after polygyny. So he doesn't. It's not like if he marries another woman, it does not mean that he will stop loving his first wife. Sometimes it's the other way around. It actually deepens. Most.
Wow. Did he say why that is?
No, it's just because maybe the distance, maybe he sees in the new wife things that you
Okay,
have, she doesn't
well,
have,
let's build
etc.
on that then. Obviously, when I had all three of you, you know, splitting my time between the three of you, how did you feel whilst I was away, and then how did you feel when I would return? So, like, walk through your feelings, your emotions, the day I would leave, the following day, the day before I
I
come,
mean,
the day I arrive, and so on.
I would miss you. So when you go, I'd miss you.
Right.
But then I'm looking forward to seeing you again.
Right.
And then so there's no like it's not boring. There's no monotony there because you come and go. While you're not here, I see my friends, or I go out, or do the things I want to do, or just, you know, binge Netflix if I want to in my pajamas. That's
Which, by the way, I have a problem with. As in, I can't stand when you binge all day
I don't
long.
need
So
to
when I'm not
cook
there,
every day like that because you're quite
you don't
demanding
need
with
to
your
cook every
food.
day, you say?
No, I'd cook for the kids, but you know how you're demanding with your meals and everything, so I wouldn't
I'm
need
not
to do all of
demanding. Shit, no, I'm not
that.
demanding any.
5 meals a day and etc. All of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'd miss you, but because with I'm trying to say this without any blame or being disrespectful here. Like, because your other relationships were sometimes unstable, it would make it would cause problems sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. That definitely was a problematic feature of our relationship, well, of the relationships. And again, that comes back down to me. And that's why I was sharing what
Yeah.
I shared earlier, because, gentlemen, that comes back down to you. You know, this whole competency testing, jumping through hoops and so on, setting boundaries
Yeah,
and
rules
not
were
transgressing
different. For
them.
example, certain rules for me, so because I'm more easygoing, for example, certain rules were less rigid, and so, like, things like that would cause a bit of problems.
Right.
But in terms of the dynamics, there's many good things I miss from that time. Like I
Really?
said, some things I
Like
don't know.
what?
You know, the missing each other. It was always fresh. The
Yeah.
relationship stays fresh, even
But
like
now I'm
2 years.
stale, yeah? Now I'm
But
old and stale, like crusty bread.
now you're in my face every day, and you know,
Wow.
with lockdown, everything didn't make it easier.
Wow. Thanks,
And
babe.
lockdown and all of that. But to go back to the notion of love, I think a lot
Yeah.
of women struggle with this fact. Like, what if he loves someone else? What if he's intimate with someone else? What if he loves her more, etc., etc. These are things of the heart you have no control over. The only thing you can control is you, as a woman. You can push your husband away. You can make him stop loving you. You don't need another woman coming in to do that for you. You can very easily do that in monogamy as well.
This is very important, sisters. Explain how, Mona, how can they
I
push
think
their husbands away?
a lot of women live push away with your disrespect. You can be disrespectful. You can be nagging. You can be.
Mona, Lahza, 1 second. I need water. 1 second, Mona. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carry on talking because the audience are listening. Carry on.
So, I think it's in our hands. We have power as women in marriages, whether monogamy, polygamy, or whatever marriage. We have a lot of power, and we're not victims.
I like
We
that.
have power
Power.
to make the relationship work better, or get what we want out of the relationship, whether it's being loved, being cherished, being desired. All of that, it lies a lot in our hands. And often it's not the new woman coming in that makes him lose interest in you, or it's you. You have to always look back, because you can't control a man or anyone. You can only control your own behavior and your actions. So we always have to take that back and take power back to ourselves. What are
How?
you doing?
The sisters want to know, how can I make him want to be with me more? Tell them.
It's not by nagging him. It's not by forcing him to spend time with you. He's going to want to spend time with you. It's not by forcing him or complaining all the time and blaming, because then he feels like he's failing you. He's not making you happy. So the more you complain, the more he thinks, oh, I can't make this woman happy. I might as well stop trying.
And so he stops trying.
That's it. And you think, oh, look, you don't care. You're not
And
even
it
trying.
perpetuates downward
That's
spiral.
it. It's a cycle. Sometimes there are passion traps. Also, again, another book I recommend a lot, The Passion Trap. I think you've talked about it a few times. There are
Yeah.
dynamics
Yeah.
created by both. No one is to blame. It's just dynamics that happen in relationships where the balance is there's an imbalance, which causes one of the partners to be more passionate about the other, or love the other more, or think they love the other more.
So okay, let's break that down for the audience more, because I know what you're talking about, but they might not necessarily know. So would you say it's correct in saying that when a woman is very needy,
yeah,
and naggy,
or a man,
and complaining a lot,
or a man,
a man, it has the opposite effect.
It has the opposite effect. Yeah,
it pushes him further away.
It's human nature. Human nature is not logical. But the more the more you show love, like anything in excess puts the other one away, pushes the other one away.
Right.
Anything in excess.
So what would you tell the sisters? Okay,
so I think
right now she's feeling jealous. She's feeling hurt. She wants to nag. She wants to be needy on her husband. She wants to say to him, "Tell me you love me. Tell me I'm special." You know, what would you advise this sister right now? And what would you tell her that if she does this, what impact would it have?
Well, the more you do that, the less he's gonna do it. So you might as well stop. Stop whatever you're doing. It's not working. What you need to do is go back and do things for yourself. Basically get a life. Get a life. Yeah. Go to your friends.
Get a life.
Well, we can't do that right now, but do things that make you happy.
Right.
Work out. Do things for yourself, like things that will make you more confident and therefore more attractive. Just limit the amount of communication. There's no need to talk all the time. There's no need. Accept that, that distance is good. Distance is good for a relationship. It increases desirability. It's actually good. So what a lot of people want to be,
it needs space, right?
Space. So a lot of people want to be close all the time. But the problem with that is it can put the other one off.
Right.
Whether it's a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. It can go both ways.
Right.
Showing too much interest, showing too much, anything too much love, too much. Like for women, I think concentrate on yourself, do things for yourselves, and
get life, basically. Get life.
Get life, yeah. Get life.
The devil makes work for idle hands.
That's it.
If you don't have anything going on,
obsess over your phone. Obsess where he's going. Obsess why didn't he message me? Why didn't he? I know it's easier said than done, but I think it's the way to do that.
So
and be respectful.
If she doesn't have anything going on, she will consume that time with him.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. Okay, good.
And
now go.
In a sense, that's why I think polygyny is good for us women, because although I'm not like, I tell you, it's hard emotionally. I think it's good for us, because that means we don't focus everything on you as men.
Okay.
We don't focus. Not everything is in your hands. Like our happiness is in your hands. I don't know if I'm making any sense here.
Bill, explain it more. Explain it more. What do you mean?
So, first, as Muslims, first of all, we need to love Allah more than anything and obey Allah more than anything. Right. This man does not belong to you. He belongs to Allah. If you're sharing him with another woman, he's not yours. He's not a possession you have. You maybe love him less, which is okay. It's okay that you're not like, how can I express myself without sounding like, it's good to love your husband, but not too much either. Like it goes both ways. It's good to love your wife.
Is destructive. Too much water will kill you. That's okay. You can say
the same way a man, love your wife, but don't love her too much where you forget yourself, you forget your principles, you forget your deen, you forget everything, you forget haram, halal, you forget everything because you love this person so much. That's not good. That's not good love. And when you're on polygyny, you kind of, because he loves other women, you kind of like love him less, basically. Does that make sense?
No, explain. I want to understand that. What do you mean love him less? Tell me. Is that like a coping mechanism? I want to understand.
I think so. But it's a good coping mechanism, because then you can, do other things. There's more important things in life. Like you have missions, you have things you need to do.
Would I be correct in saying if you were to love me too much, the pain of dealing with another woman would it'd be too much. So you have to be like lessen your emotions a little bit.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
think
fair
it's
to
better.
say?
Then you're less likely to react emotionally for certain things. You might,
Right.
you know, live a less emotional life, which is
Mm.
great.
And I don't think that's a bad thing, because I
It's
think
not.
too much, as you mentioned, too much of anything is destructive. I'm drinking water right now. If I drank too much water tonight, I would die from internal drowning. And
Yeah,
I think many of us, we do love our spouses too much. We love them to the point where we say statements like, I would die without her, or I would die without him.
that's it.
You understand? Like,
Yeah.
and alik. No, you wouldn't. Right?
Yeah,
And that's too far. This hub is too far. It's too far. It's destructive hub. And like you
that's it.
said, it
Yeah,
will cause you to do things that will transgress your values, your
that's it.
boundaries, halal, haram, and so on. So I think that's a positive thing. I don't think that's a negative thing at all. Or at least that's what I tell myself at night.
Oh God.
Okay. I have a question for you, Mona. You mentioned something earlier about how the Prophet ﷺ would sometimes come back from travels with another wife, right?
Oh yeah, I was flicking through this book. I read it years ago, a
So
few
to
years
answer
ago.
the question for the
Yeah.
ladies who say that you need to get permission from your husband before you marry again, I thought that was a sand in the
No,
eyes. Can you explain that one there?
no. Well, there's nothing in the Sunnah or the Quran showing that a man needs permission, or even to tell her beforehand. I mean, scholars differ. They say he doesn't have to, but maybe, you know, for the sake of trust and for the sake of their relationship, it's better out of respect to tell her in advance.
Right.
But what this book shows is that no matter when he tells her, if he tells her, the hurt is there. So if he tells her a year in advance, look, I'm thinking about getting another wife, and he doesn't for a few years, that she starts suffering a year in advance for something that hasn't happened yet, because he doesn't have a woman lined up there and waiting for him. He's just telling her, look, I'm thinking maybe I'll get another wife. So he's prolonging her suffering.
Right.
And sometimes he doesn't get married. Sometimes he doesn't get married.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and it causes problems in the marriage, etc. And there are those who don't say anything, only put you in that, you know, they tell you the next day, for example. He got married, and then they tell you the next day. There's a real life story in this book from Monogamy to Polygyny that states that regardless when he tells her, she will feel betrayed, hurt, sad. She feels maybe there's something wrong with me. And what we've seen from the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, which were much better women than we are,
right,
there was nothing wrong with them. So Aisha radiallahu anha had maybe 9 after her. Doesn't mean she's deficient.
There were 9 wives
After her, yeah. It doesn't mean she's deficient in any way. Doesn't she mean there's anything wrong with her? No. Nothing wrong with her. And there's nothing shameful about it as well. Like a lot of women see as a shame. My husband's gonna go another wife. It looks like I'm deficient in a way or another.
And the reason why she's projecting like that is because if she was married and she was seeking another relationship externally from the marriage, it is because he's deficient in some way for her.
Yeah, that's it.
So she
a woman
projects
can
the
be
same.
A woman can have everything he wants in her, everything he wants, and yet he could still want another wife. It means nothing. Like it has it's not a reflection on the woman. It's not so that's one thing I keep telling myself. It's not a reflection on me. It's not because you're discontent or there's anything wrong with me. I'm by far, I'm not perfect, but there's nothing wrong with me for you wanting to get married again. It's just a natural desire that men have towards women.
Right.
And so there's that misconception that if a man really loves you and he desires you, he can't even think of another woman or desire another woman. That's not the case, because men are different to us.
And it's interesting because we were watching something on YouTube the other day. What's that guy's name? That guy was
Franklin something, what is he? He's a producer. He's a Christian.
No, not him. The white dude. The white dude.
The channel is called something Greatness.
That guy. And he was the one who said he finds it hard to commit to women because when he's with a woman, he still desires other women.
That's it.
And that guy checked him at the moment and said to him, no, that's normal. So the guy had this mindset that if I found the right woman for me,
Yeah.
my desires for other women should disappear.
But that's not the case.
And that never
Yeah.
happened for him. So he was thinking, well, it must mean she's
She's
not
not
the
the
one.
one. That's it.
When that wasn't the case all along.
Yeah. And this Franklin guy, I don't remember his full name. He was
Yeah.
saying, no, you can be in a very good marriage, a committed marriage, and be in love with your wife, and that lust doesn't go away. You just have to control it. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just have to control it, but it's never going away as a man. He's talking from a man's perspective here.
Now, how
Would you
about
agree?
when it comes to vetting a woman for polygyny? So again, what I learned from the 3 Wives, 1 Husband program of the Mormon Christians was they do something very interesting, which I really admire, which was before he marries another woman, he brings her to the home, and this new woman that he's considering for marriage has to spend time with the wives, with the kids, with him, during this courting phase, this courtship period, to see if she's a good fit for the household. Now, as Muslims, we can't do it exactly like that, but how important would you say it is for men to choose a woman who fits the culture of himself and his current wife, so that they can sort of like blend smoothly?
There's pros and cons to that, though, because the first wife might be very unhappy with you getting another wife, and meeting the new woman, she might deliberately put her off.
Well, I'm not saying to do that. We can't do that as Muslims anyway. Like, we
not
can't
even introducing the new woman.
Introducing. Okay.
Introducing the new woman.
So how do you think he should do it then? All right, let's talk about me and you. Let's say I want to get married again. All right. I've got a sister in mind, or I don't have a sister in mind. It's me now. How would you like that to play out? What do you think? Would you like to meet her beforehand?
I think I'd rather
to tell you beforehand. Would you like?
I think I'd rather be involved than not involved and get a surprise.
How is it involved?
Explain. But I'm not expecting to become friends. Like, this is not something I'd like to do. Like, I don't expect that, because most likely we'll dislike each other. Like, let's be realistic here.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with the person. It's just like you dislike them. Like Aisha radiallahu anha, when she saw Juwayriya for the first time, she was a beautiful woman. She was covering the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She didn't want him to see her, and she said, I took an instant dislike to her, not knowing the woman, not knowing her, and that's okay. That's normal. Like, you don't have to like each other. You don't have to be best friends. Don't pretend you're friends. Don't pretend like you have to. You have to accept the realities of human nature, of jealousy. You're jealous, that's fine. Just don't act on it. You dislike her, but don't oppress her. You see, you dislike her, that's fine. You don't have to force relationships. Maybe years down the line, maybe you can become friends. I don't know. But for me, I definitely could not have been friends with any of your wives. It just doesn't.
Well, okay, what about in the future? Let's say I find a woman who, she passes my red flag tests. I've vetted her fully, like, this is a woman from a good, stable upbringing, and so on and so on and so on and so on. You know what type of woman I'm looking for if I start looking, right? Would you wanna be involved with that type of woman? How do you feel about all of that? And let's add on top of that, she's 20 years younger than you as well. Now, how does that make you feel?
Well, she'll have qualities I don't have. I'll have qualities she doesn't have. That happens at any age. It doesn't matter the age, right?
Right, that's true. Yeah.
I'll have experience things that are an advantage, and she'll have things that are an advantage as well.
Right.
It does not mean anything. I mean, it does. I don't like the idea of it. I don't like the idea of having a.
Would you want to have a relationship with her?
I don't think I would. I mean, I don't think I would. I think each can have their own lives and have their privacy. When I'm with you, I'm with you. I don't need to mix with her as well. And when she's with you, she's with you. Like, I don't think I want to mix up. However, if you start having children with her, then I'd like the children to be involved. They're siblings, But
then how can we involve the kids, but you two not have a relationship?
Maybe down the line, that's years down the line, when, we've gone past that initial phase, and things are more stable, and, they're more, more like monotone, and everything is like back to kind of normal life. Maybe for the kids' sake, I would be diplomatic, and out of respect for you,
Yeah.
I would not treat her ill. Or
And just because I can see in the comments that people are like, no, they should be friends. Listen, guys.
No, I don't
You don't
agree
have
with that.
experience. Yeah,
You
we're
don't
talking
have to
from
be
experience.
friends.
We're
No.
talking from experience, and I'm talking from my father's experience. My dad used to bring his wives to the house, and they'd all have dinner together. And I thought that was a big man thing. I was like, my dad's a boss. He's got all these women here. They're all his wives, and they're all under manners. I was like, yes, sir, bossy. I find out shortly afterwards, 2 months afterwards, maybe even a few years, and he said to me, Mahdi, that was one of my worst mistakes. Don't think that they can be chummy and friendly with each other.
No.
You're asking too much closeness.
You're asking too much.
Yeah, because I saw Sadie wrote a comment just now. Knowing is better than not knowing. Actually, sometimes not knowing is better than knowing.
Well, the problem with not knowing is that it causes jealousy as well. Either way, there's jealousy. If you know too much, if you know, you get jealous. If you don't know, you get jealous as well. Because not knowing, you're imagining things. So
which one's better? Which is the worst? Which is the better of the two evils?
They're both evil. I don't know.
They're both evil, but which one?
Not knowing too much. I think
pick
knowing
your
too
poison.
much.
Which one?
Knowing too much is not good. Knowing too much, like you know everything about her, like even her everything, like that. I think that causes more jealousy than not knowing. But the not knowing as well, you
it's
also
still difficult.
Basically. So jealousy is not. You're not gonna escape from the jealousy part. It's just gonna happen. You have to deal with it. Just don't act on it. That's all. We are allowed to be jealous. The Prophet Prophet's wives were the best of women. Felt jealousy. They just didn't act on it. And if they acted on it, like Aisha when she broke that plate, then she returned it. And made amends. So even if you do slip up, sometimes it happens. You have to fear Allah. That's it. In terms of friendship, I think when there are children involved, you need to make it work as a family.
Right. And also, because remember, I said to you before, if I do get married again, this time I will not be having my wife spread out all over the country. I will have them on the same street. The reason being is the purpose of polygyny is children, right? It's to procreate. And the kids need their dad in their life every single day, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So if your wives are scattered all over the country, which is what the setup I had before, okay, they're separated, which is on the one hand a good thing, but on the other hand, the kids hardly get to see you. And furthermore, I only preferred having my wife scattered because I was, how can I say this? I was beta-tized. I was scared of my women. I was scared of them. I was scared of the backlash I would get if I went to town with one of them and then the other one would see me and then there'd be a fight. I was scared. So the truth of the matter is, and this is why I say it always comes back down to you as a man. You are the one who sets the tone. You set the pace in the relationship. If you set a poor pace, well, good luck to you. It's going to be a total nightmare. So with that in mind, you know that I want to have my wives all on the same street. Forget about same town. So would you then, what type of relationship would you want to kindle or not want to kindle with them? How do you feel
for the children's sake, because they need to see you every day. I don't think it's fair on children not to see their father. He needs to be involved.
Yeah.
In terms of, families getting together, no, each their own home.
Yeah.
The nights he's with that one woman, he's with that one woman. You have to respect their privacy. You don't call in the middle of the night for no reason whatsoever. Even if you think it's a reason or you make up a reason, you can't do that. You need to, the way you want to be treated, you need to treat them. And that's the problem that we had sometimes. I felt like that certain things were different. Definitely,
like I wasn't being fair. Is that what you're saying? Like I wasn't being fair? No,
I'm not saying you're not being fair. Maybe you were more like walking on eggshells on the other side, so therefore you wouldn't, for example, maybe pick up a phone call, or whereas when you're with me, you'd pick up that phone call, and I'd be like, "Why do you pick up for her?" Do you understand
this again, gentlemen? This comes down to boundaries. I'm gonna be careful. Yeah, be careful.
Yeah.
This comes down to boundaries, because I was because two of my wives had very, very high jealousy levels. Their jealousy levels were very high. This put me on eggshells, right? So I would break the rules for them, but not necessarily for Mona. This was wrong of me. This was one of my fundamental mistakes, and it opened the door. See, I didn't check my women. I didn't check them and put them back in line. And as a result of that, give them an inch and they'll take the full 9 yards. So you have to be careful. You really have to check women. Now,
I think that's your responsibility. Yeah, as a man, it's your responsibility to make sure certain boundaries are kept. Like if we live on the same street, for example, her night is her night, my night is my night. There's no interference there. During the day, of course, you're free to come and go wherever, but it's better that you spend time in the house where you spend your night and try to avoid going to the other house. Although the Prophet ﷺ used to visit all his wives every day.
And I want to talk about that actually.
So they lived close by. They all lived close by near the masjid in Medina, and he used to visit all of them every day. And then after Asr, I think, or Maghrib, he would spend the night with whoever had that night.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then go out for Fajr Salah, and so on and so forth, like that.
I want to ask you one question, Mona, because I know it's going to be on the minds of some sisters, because it was raised to me in my marriages before, time and again. And that is, what if your husband wants to be intimate with all of his wives in one night? How do you handle that emotionally?
Well, if that night is for that woman, I don't think it's for that woman.
Prophet did it.
Is it during the day or during the night?
Well, the time frame. Let's say during the daytime. Then he ultimately spends the night with one woman, but
yeah, then it's her night.
Before he comes to you, he's been intimate with all of his wives. How do you handle that emotionally? And you know he has.
First of all, it's none of your business. The first thing is you need to keep away from things that do not concern you. It's very hard, especially if you're a curious person. But it's none of your business what he does with the other woman.
Right.
It really is not your business. Likewise, you don't want them knowing anything about you because it's your private life. So you shouldn't. It's none of your business. And if he does, it's within his right. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ used to visit all his wife and be intimate with all of them as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes on the same day.
That's why I'm raising this.
It is what it is, and that's it.
That's
you have
exactly
to deal with the reality. You don't like it, but it is. It is what it is, like you say.
Okay. All right. Good. Now, Mona, you mentioned an instance to me earlier about when the Prophet ﷺ came back from one particular expedition or something, and he came back with a wife. Can you just, because I said to you, hold out, bring that to the life.
I was reading a story of. Well, the question was, does my husband have to tell me if he intends to get married? Does he need my permission? The answer was no.
Right.
Does he need to tell me? The answer is no. He doesn't have to. But maybe for the sake of trust and to make it easier for the couple, it's better that he does tell her.
Right.
However, it's shown that it doesn't matter if he tells her or doesn't tell her, the hurt is still there. She might feel upset anyway, feel betrayed, and the trust might be gone anyway, regardless. She might feel like, oh, I don't love him anymore, I don't want him to touch me, I don't want this, I don't want that. You need to read the book for yourself. I think it's very eye-opening because it's
called From Monogamy to Polygyny, is that?
Yeah, it's very raw, like real stories.
Okay, good.
So what was your question? Sorry.
So my question was to the ladies who say the wife needs the husband's permission. The answer is no, he does not.
No. So
the husband needs the wife's permission.
There are stories of the Prophet ﷺ where he would come back from an expedition where there was, I don't know what kind of expedition, but he would come back with a new wife.
Right.
So not only did the other wives have no idea, he would just come with a new wife.
Right.
And sometimes he would marry very shortly after marrying one wife, shortly within months, marry another one. We know that the Prophet ﷺ is a special case. He was allowed to marry more than 4 women. And we also know he married for reason of alliances. So he married a woman from each tribe of Quraysh, plus one from a Christian tribe and one from a Jewish tribe, to unite the tribes of Quraysh.
Right.
So we know there was more to it than meets the eye. It was not just for the sake of marrying, women left and right. There was a purpose behind it. And a
Right.
lot of Muslims use that as, oh, look, he married widows, he married divorcees. Who are
Yeah.
you to say you shouldn't marry divorcees, right?
Right. Right.
They kind of, it's a thing that keeps coming back and forth.
Yeah.
Well, you need to remember, it was for a specific reason. There was
Strategic
a,
alliances.
that's it,
And
alliance.
this is, we were talking about this earlier, and just to make it clear, look, this happens in royalty all the time. This happens in very successful family institutions. For example, the Rothschild made a strategic alliance with the Hiltons, right? James Rothschild is married
Yeah.
to, what's her
Hilton.
name, that Hilton girl?
Nikki, I think. Nick or
Right.
Nikki. Nico. Yeah.
Nikki Hilton. In royalty happens all the time. The Princess of England will marry the Princess of Spain. This creates strategic alliances. The same with the Prophet. He was creating strategic alliances with different tribes, right? But now for the everyday regular layman, I mean, he doesn't need to make a strategic alliance. No, he's a nobody, right? For the most part, the average layman, he's not looking to make strategic alliances. So you can basically you're marrying based off of, you know, someone that's good for you. The Prophet ﷺ was tended to marry, to form strategic alliances, to bring peace between tribes, for
That's
example.
it. Yeah.
This happens all the time in royalty.
Yeah.
Whenever two countries want to bring peace between those two countries,
Mm-hmm.
the king of France will give his daughter to marry to the king of England's son, for example. And then there's peace between those two countries, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Right.
So we
Okay,
although we need to look at the Prophet ﷺ and his life, etc. There were instances where his rules were not our rules. So, for example, he could marry more than 4. He needed to pray at night. We don't have to pray every night.
Right.
That kind of tahajjud.
No.
So there are exceptions that were made for the Prophet ﷺ
Sallallahu
that we cannot always use.
Right.
Right.
Okay, Mona, look, there's 28. I've got 28 questions here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start going through them. I have a feeling a lot of them will be for you. So let's start doing that. Okay. Okay, you know what? This is a raw question here, but I'm gonna put it up for you. So the sister has said, Mona, to the sister, I don't mean this in a bad way, but were you kind of pleased when Mahdi got divorced from his other wives? You can be honest.
Okay. I did not want him to divorce his wives, so I was not pushing him that on that direction. I was actually unhappy when his first wife asked for khula.
Because she had my kids.
Yeah, especially for your children's sake.
Yeah.
I did not want her to divorce. The second time around, I can't lie, I was kind of relieved. I was kind of relieved.
Yeah.
But the first wife, definitely, I did not want her to leave.
Okay, good.
The first wife, I did not want her to leave for the sake of the children. I even later on, I was telling you, you know, if for the sake of the kids you want to go back, go back. You don't even need my blessing, but I'm telling you, like,
yeah,
you should go back to your family, to your pet, to your kids.
I remember.
I would have preferred if your first marriage did not break down.
Fall apart, yeah. There's a question here from a young lady. She makes a valid point. She says, no offense, but you were the third wife when you married. Jealousy would hit harder on the first wife. What's your response to that?
Absolutely. I know this. And I empathize. But what can I say?
It is what it is, right?
Yeah, I empathize.
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, so Faiza, you're right. I mean, it is what it is, though. Okay, this one's for me. Polygyny is not the norm. Do you think you only ever had more than one wife because your dad had multiple wives? I've answered this before, but I'll answer it again. My dad didn't have multiple wives whilst I was in the household. Well, I got married at 16 and I moved out at 16, just after I turned 17, actually. Okay, that's when my dad started getting married again. So I wasn't really exposed to that influence. However, I will say this: the conversation was brought up all the time in the household, and it's something my dad has always been very supportive of when I would do it. Now, just because something is not normal doesn't mean that the only reason why I did it is because it was normalized in my house. I will say this, yes, for sure. We live in a culture, even amongst the Muslim sisters, of Beauty and the Beast, of Cinderella and whatever his name is. There was only ever one woman in the picture with one guy, and you lot, including myself, have all been brought up on this same diet of monogamy. So even in the Muslim community, we tend to reject this because we have been brought up on a diet of Disney, the Disney diet. And it makes it much harder, infinitely harder, for our Western women to accept it. But to the gentlemen, I say this. Gentlemen, if you're a high-value man and you can back that high value with also having resources, you've got money, all women shut their mouths when you've got resources. All of them. Just trust. You don't believe me? Go and have a look on Dan Bilzerian's Instagram account. Go and have a look on, what's his name? Hugh Hefner, Playboy guy, right? Listen, women, money shuts them up because it satisfies their hypergamy. So if you want a woman to make peace with it, you are going to have to be high value, my friend. You're going to have to be high value. All right? Okay, moving on. Let's see if I can find some more for you. Mona?
Yeah.
قل أميرة تستطيع علينا شوية.
Where is she?
Comments.
Oh, where is she?
مانيش عارف.
You know,
Okay,
regarding...
hold on, Mona. Joined late. Is this your wife, Mahdi? Yes, this is my wife, guys. Yes. Now, Mona, you want to say something?
I was saying that, you know, I think most women would, even those who don't even want to be in polygamy, who would, you know, not even consider it. If you tell them, look, this guy is going to give you, you're going to live in a mansion, you're gonna get whatever you like, you can have a maid, you can, you know, you can live the high life. Yeah. But you'd be his fourth wife. Yeah. A lot of women would say, oh, okay. Let's be realistic here. It's easier to deal with it if the man gives you a good life. It's just like that's reality. You just deal with it. Like you just, you know, at least I'm living a good life. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Mona. So Sadie has a question here. Would you accept if Mahdi was to get another wife? Not that I care whether you accept it, but answer the question anyway. Would you accept if Mahdi was to get another wife? No, don't give him permission. Well, I have to accept. I'm sorry. I will not marry again my beloved wife. Yes. Good. I will submit. Good. I will hold you to these words. I am the simp. I will submit to the simp life. Yes. I came as a third. I came in. I came in as a third. It would be very hypocritical of me to now not accept if he wanted to marry again. I would be a hypocrite. So I have to accept whether I like it or not. Okay, let's say you came in as the first, and you know, you don't have to think like that. Now what? How do you feel now? Even then, I cannot deny you what Allah has given you. If Allah has given you that right, I cannot deny you that right. However, you need to be in a certain situation. I'm not saying that there needs to be a reason for you to get married. Like, you know, some people say, oh, well, you know, if his wife can't give him kids or this or that or that, the other. No, you don't need a reason like that. You can marry anyone you like. But you need to have secured the first household in order for you to get another household. And I think, is it fair to say that part of the reason why you make peace with it is because you know that's my mindset, that I wouldn't marry again anyway? Yeah, I think that's what it is. I know totally take. You understand that? I think a lot of men can't even take care of one wife, whether it's financially, emotionally, physically, or just generally, they can't even take on one wife. But then they want to get another one. So then the woman is thinking, not only are we, let's say, we can barely make ends meet, and then you wanna divide that in two. I barely see you. You work all the time. I see you very little, and then you want to divide that, or the kids barely see you, and you need to, as a man, unless you can provide for your first household, you know, at least the bare minimum. You cannot sit here and say, oh, it's my right. It's my privilege, you know, use that privilege. Allah gave me the right to have multiple wives, therefore I should just do it because it's my right. We have rights as well. And I'm just looking at some of these comments here. I'll be his side piece if he's rich. Number one. I would be fourth or third wife if he has money. See? Guys, money shuts them up. Go and get rich. I'm not saying it's the only thing. It's not the only thing. If he's a bad man, he's a bad man. But if he's a good man and he's a good man, good husband, good father, and he can provide you with a good life, I mean, what you know, it's better than most men, even if he gets another wife.
Yeah.
Even if
Like
you
I
have to
said to you,
divide him, you know, divide him. If
I
you
was
have
saying to you the
to,
other day, if ever you got upset and you're upset, you're crying, I was like, go and buy a Birkin bag from Hermes or something. Like, okay, I'm fine with that. I'm happy with that.
I tell, get another wife, buy me a diamond set, and that's fine. Go.
Yeah. Buy me a diamond set, you know. All right, let's find another question. Okay, this is a good question. You can answer it quickly. Do you miss your divorced wives? No, alhamdulillah. No, I don't. Okay, I'm gonna put this up. I don't like the first bit, move aside Mahdi, but I like the second bit. Your wife is a legend. She seems like an awesome sister to chill with.
Oh,
That's from Sister Maryam.
Thank you, Mariam.
Okay.
Well, maybe we'll
Maryam
meet.
has also said, maybe we'll meet inshallah. Problem is this generation is chasing a Bollywood romance, but the Sunnah romance allows room for you to love yourself first. Yep, I think you wrote that earlier. That's good. I like that. Okay, this is a good one from Lubna. Would the other wives start text arguments on purpose? Lubna, I cannot say unequivocally yes, because none of them ever admitted to it, right? But I can tell you from having watched that Mormon program, 3 Wives, 1 Husband, that one of them admitted she started a text argument with her husband whilst he was out on an anniversary with one of his other wives. So, you know. Is it easier for the wife and husband to have the same background, e.g. ethnicity? I mean, guys, look, I'm half Algerian, half English. My wife is half Iraqi, half Romanian. And if you're wondering about her accent, it's because she speaks 5 languages. That's why she doesn't have an accent, right?
Well, I have I have an accent,
mesh.
but you can't tell where from. I have an accent.
Yeah, because it doesn't come from anywhere.
I think
it comes from all 5 languages.
I think there is familiarity though. There is, we have things in common.
Yes,
whether
we
it's
do.
in family,
Our Arab culture, the Arab culture.
Yeah, being half, you know, all of that, the Arab culture. I think there's a lot of familiarity there. We have a lot in common in that sense.
Yeah, and I think it is important to be.
I knew your mom before.
You know that I
years
know
ago.
Friend.
Yeah.
I have a friend, I've told you before, who divorced his wife. She was a good woman and everything. And the major issue that they had was they couldn't connect on a level. It was like I remember him telling me it was like we were living in 2 separate households in the same household, because she was from back home and he was raised here. And even though they shared the same ethnicity, they just couldn't connect on a level. So I think it is important. There needs to be, you need to understand each other's culture. What do you think?
Familiarity. I think we need to be even if you're from different ethnicities, but there's familiar culture. Me and you, I didn't grow up in the UK. So for me, sometimes there are things me and you are just different because you're from the UK, I'm not. But let's say 2 people from the UK, even if they have different ethnicities, can find familiarity. I think familiarity is very important.
Absolutely.
In the long run. In the long run, yeah.
I have another question for you, Mona. Okay. It's, why did you marry Mahdi if you were the 3rd? What were you looking for in the marriage? It's from Asma.
What was I looking for? I think I was looking for what most women look for. Someone who, from your understanding, from the little you know of the person, because I don't believe you know anyone until you live with them. From what you see and what you know, someone who potentially can be a good husband to you. I had 3 children, so I saw Mahdi. He had experience with children. I saw how my kids reacted to him, and that gave me confidence that okay, he can be a good stepfather, which he's been all these years. He's like a father to them. My son doesn't know any other father figure except Mahdi. He doesn't even remember his own father. So that was very important to me, my children. But also I could tell, I think you kind of know from the beginning. I knew there'd be issues with, you know, the situation, the wives, all of that. But I also knew, okay, there's potential here to have a good relationship. There's potential here to have a good husband. I think I can love this man. All of this, even you don't need 100 meetings for this. You can kind of figure it out from the beginning. Can I love this man? Yes or no? It's quite easy. Can I respect this man? That's very important.
Yeah.
As a woman, if you can't respect him, you cannot live with him, because it only gets worse from here. If you can't respect him in your honeymoon phase, or before marriage, when everyone is on their best behavior, if you can't respect him, you will never respect him when you see his flaws and his socks on the floor and his, it's very important. I felt I could respect Mahdi. I felt I could respect him. He had qualities I was looking for in a husband. I knew the family, so I was already familiar with the mom. And
so, Mona, Mona, your phone's cut out. Mona, you there? Is your battery okay, by the way?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. What's your battery on?
It's on low, but it's okay. It's
How
fine.
much low? How much? You keep cutting out.
20%. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And just to build on that, because some people might be confused now. They might think, but Mahdi, you married a widow with kids, and yet you advise other men to not marry a woman with kids. So I'm going to address that topic. Firstly and foremostly, when I married my Mona, I married her long before I had any of these notions, these beliefs, before I was made aware of certain realities, certain relationship realities. That's the first thing. The second thing is she was my third wife. This is really important to wrap your head around. She wasn't my first wife. And I'm gonna speak frankly here, Mona. She asked me the other day, would you have done it again? Would you have married a woman with kids again if you had the opportunity to do so? And I said to her, no, I wouldn't. I'll be honest with you.
It's like me.
I said to her, I love you, and I think, alhamdulillah, we'll make an excellent couple, but would I do it again? Knowing what I know now, no, because it's too risky. You see, Mona's a good woman. Alhamdulillah, she's a good woman. But it's just too risky. When you're marrying a woman with kids who's been through, especially divorcees, I always make a distinction between widows and divorcees. Let me tell you, anecdotally, first-hand experience, emotionally, they are not the same. Please just take it from me. Take it from me. A divorcee and the way you connect with her, and a widow and the way you connect with her is not the same. Now, some divorcees, a small minority of them, have genuinely been oppressed by their husbands and they had the right to leave and they should have left. But they are a tiny minority. Most women who initiate divorce do so without really solid grounds. I frequently, it's thrown in my face, or what if she was beaten? Domestic violence is a minority, it happens to a minority of women, guys. Less than 20% of women ever experience domestic violence. Most women initiate a divorce thinking that the grass is greener on the other side because Disney told them so. Disney told them that you will live happily ever after. And when she's in this marriage not living happily ever after, she's upset. She's disappointed. She initiates a divorce. 70% of divorces are initiated by women. Some stats say 80%. A large majority of divorces are initiated by women because they're unhappy. Their marriages are not living up to their Disney expectations. So I say to the brothers, this is why I tell you, be careful of divorces. Be careful. Be very careful. Because if they had that attitude towards one marriage, they will probably have it with you as well in your next marriage. This is the reality, especially with women who've been through multiple divorces. Those women are write-offs. You shouldn't touch them with a barge pole. I am saying it categorically. You should not touch women who have had multiple divorces, multiple failed long-term relationships with a barge pole. They will bring that toxicity, that negativity to your life as well. Stay away from them. What to do with them is tough. They just need to learn. They need to die alone so that the new generation of girls can see this example and learn from them. Now, Mona, you want to say something?
Don't know.
I'm just going to fill my
like
water.
Polygyny.
Carry on speaking.
Yeah, it's like polygyny. Would I recommend it? Probably not. I don't recommend it because it's hard. It's difficult emotionally. It's quite hard. You need to be really equipped to deal with it. So I wouldn't recommend it. But it does not mean it doesn't work for some people. But would I do it again? I don't know. If I was 20-year-old, not have kids, I don't think I would have done. I wouldn't have entered polygyny. That's the honest truth. So a lot of women get angry when you say things like, if you've never been married before, don't marry someone who's got kids or who's divorced. If you've never been married yourself. But me as a woman, if I was a 20-year-old getting married for the first time, I would not consider someone with children like you, Mahdi. This is reality, because I wouldn't
This is
even
what I
go there.
said to the ladies. I said to
I
that
wouldn't have
sister, if
considered.
you were 20 years old, that sister Zubaydah, I told her, if you were 20 years old, you wouldn't bat an eyelid at a man who's got kids.
That's it. You wouldn't. Let's be honest here. I wouldn't. As a 20-year-old, I wouldn't have married someone like you who's got children. It's just this is reality, and it's okay, and you accept this. And
that's it. That's it. It's reality, like you said. You know,
it happens.
But there's a caveat there, and the caveat
happens.
is
Sometimes you meet someone.
If I was a wealthy billionaire and you were 20 years old, then the conversation changes.
يعني.
It changes, and that's why I say
there's more to.
On your graph, you have options. When you don't have options, you don't have options. You take whatever's available.
I mean, wealth is not the most important thing. It's about being a man on a purpose, a man with a good character, a loving man, a strong man, who's got an edge. He can protect you. He'll be there for you if someone comes. You don't have to protect him. You see, there are many characteristics of a high value man. It's not always wealth. It can be someone who's not wealthy at all, but he's on his purpose. He's got a mission. And that makes him a high value man, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Barakallahu fik. Okay, Mana, I'm gonna go to the next question. There are many. Okay. This is, I think you've addressed this really. Hannah says, is it possible to be friends with co-wives? The behavior you described, my tongue is messing up now, sounded toxic, e.g. love bites.
I think you can. I mean, I wouldn't force relationships. So you're most likely not gonna like her. So why force it? Just be true to who you are. I'd rather someone is honest, rather than tries too hard to make it. The problem with being all jokey and chatty with co-wives is that they might slip things here and there. They might say something on purpose to cause friction within your marriage. I
caught that phrase. I caught that. Now I'm gonna carry on. Sorry.
If you become too friendly, they might say something that might upset you.
Right.
Something,
A little.
You have to protect yourself. You have to protect yourself, not put yourself in situations where you don't know how to deal with it emotionally. So you have to be careful. Sometimes intentional, sometimes it's not intentional. A lot of people just talk a lot and things slip out. They slip.
That's a good point.
And then it creates problems.
She might a little dig, a little
digs.
Something
I kind of know the digs. I kind of like get it from the beginning. Kind of, okay, this is a dig. It's about not reacting to the dig. But it can affect you. You're human.
Yeah.
It can affect you. Let's say she mentions some gift you gave her, or we went there the other day, and then you're thinking, oh, why you haven't taken me there, or you didn't buy me this, or it creates these kind of comparison that is unnecessary. That's why I prefer to keep it diplomatic.
Bringing back bad memories for me, wallah.
Keep it diplomatic.
God. Did you bring her to this restaurant? Have you had dinner with her here? Well, I'm not eating here then.
I mean, it's better to keep it diplomatic, keep it decent, but there's no need to become friends. You can if you want to, if you're able to deal with it. Great, but you don't have to. I don't think so.
I wanted to ask you. Sorry, you want to say something else?
No, I don't know. That's my opinion. Allah, I don't know.
All right, I wanted to answer this one, Mona, because I've answered it. I want you to answer it. When you say check your woman, can you explain what you mean, please? What do you understand, Mona, by checking a woman? How do you check a woman? What does that mean?
Check. I mean, I know it sounds harsh, right? So that's why women don't like it. Like, what do you mean check your woman?
Yeah.
It's putting boundaries and putting a limit that she can't cross. I think as women, we like to test the waters. Like, how far can I go with this man? How far can I get away with things? Right. So you said
it bluntly the other day. You said like women can be like children.
Yeah, we try to see where is my limit? How much can I get away with this guy? If I say this or do that, will he mind? Will he not mind?
Please listen, gentlemen. Yeah, you're hearing from a woman. She's telling you. Go on, carry on.
But to do it on purpose, to shit test you on purpose, that's something I'm not familiar with. But I know a lot of women do that to see, okay, is this a man's man? Can he protect me? Is he, does he stand his ground? Does he have principles? And the more you give in and the more you go against your principles, the less respect she'll have for you. So actually, you think you're making her happy. You think you're making her happy, but you're actually, she will disrespect you eventually.
She will disrespect you more. Mona, look, I'm gonna just bring this up plainly as an example for the people to see, and that is the other day you were feeling emotional, you were feeling upset, right?
Yeah.
And you said to me, I need to cry. I needed to cry. You said to me, I need to
for
cry.
no reason. Yeah, ladies, I think you can relate. Sometimes you just need to cry. You don't know why. You just do. Well, now I know why.
I know the gentlemen are looking at this thinking, huh? What do you mean you need to cry for no reason? Fellas, don't try to understand it. I tried for many years. Don't try to understand it.
You cry once a year. You cry once a year. We have to cry more often than that.
Yeah, exactly.
At least once a month.
But the point I'm getting to is that because you were in that state, you needed to have an excuse to cry, right? And that was a prime moment for us to have an argument over something so that you could have that excuse to cry and cry.
I was thinking I need an excuse to cry. That was, but I was aware of it, so I didn't find it. I was trying to fit in my head. I was trying to think what is upsetting me right now. I need to find something to upset me, so I can cry, but the tears weren't coming. And then
so often what women will do in this scenario, and I have to say my wife holds herself together very well, but often what women will do is pick a fight with her husband. She'll pick a fight with him, and he's thinking, what? No, I didn't do this, I didn't say that, I didn't do the other. And all the while, she just needs an excuse to cry so that her tears feel justified.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yes.
Please pay attention, gentlemen. You're hearing it from the horse's mouth, from a woman.
Yeah, sometimes it's something you've said that upset, you haven't done anything, something I'm feeling. And, I need to argue with someone.
And guys, I wish at that
especially
moment,
when we're hormonal or pregnant, or
I wish someone would put up a banner. Mahdi, she just needs an excuse to argue. But honestly, man, it doesn't come like that. And me, if you come at me with something, I straight away go into solution mode, right? Okay, she said this, this, and this. I need to fix that. I need to refute this. I need to deny that and correct her and realign her. And sometimes it's just, you just don't get involved, gentlemen. Just understand. It is what it is.
She needs a hug. She needs a hug, and that's it. She needs a hug, a bit of kind words, and she'll be fine. Or make her laugh. Make her laugh. Well, for me anyway, it works, and that's it.
I struggle with that. To this day, I struggle with that because I take the direct approach, but it's something I'm working on anyway. I hope that answered the question. Okay, next question. All right, Mona, this one's for you. What's a good time? Oh no, I want you to answer it. What's a good time to tell her you're going to get a second wife to lessen the torture? We were talking about this earlier.
Ooh, I don't think there's any good time. No matter what you do, it's like the hurt's going to be there. So whether you tell her before you marry her, whether you tell her after you marry her, a year down, 10 years down the line, a lot of women in this book I read felt safe in their marriage. So they've been married for 5 years, 10 years. The relationship is going well. They thought, I'm safe. I'm safe. My husband hasn't mentioned any other woman. He seems content. I'm happy. He's happy. We're happy. We have children. Seems like everything's fine. And then out of the blue, he comes and says, oh, I'm thinking of getting another wife. And that really destabilizes the woman. And she's like, so there's no right time. I don't think there's a right time.
But if I was to get married again, what do you think, based on your experience in the past already, what do you think would be the best time for you to hear that from me? In your view, what do you think? Okay, let's word it different. There is no best time.
There's no best time.
Least painful time.
Well, I don't think if you're not as a man, if you're not serious, don't joke about it. Don't go around joking about it. Don't talk about it unless you're serious, because there's no point. There's no point just talking about it for no reason. You'll just start getting insecure and this and that, and you're creating problems for no reason whatsoever. If you're not in a situation where you can get married, don't even mention it. Don't even
Yeah.
mention it, because she'll feel like, oh, is something wrong with me? Am I inadequate? Is there something going on here that I don't know? And she'll probe you and this and that. And that was not necessary. If you want to talk about these things, talk to your friends. Go talk to other men. If you want to talk about that kind of stuff. If you are serious, if you are serious
But
about
when
and
should he tell you? When should he? When is the best time for me to tell you, Mona?
it depends on the person. Some
Okay,
women you can't tell them. You tell them in advance, they'll make your life hell for whatever months or days. If you tell them after, they'll reprimand you for going behind their back. If you it just depends on the woman.
Yeah,
Depends
and
on
on that note of it depending on the woman, I've mentioned before, when I married Mona, one of the women I told, the other one I didn't, because I knew the one that I didn't, she's gonna go so psycho, it's gonna be World War III. And the other one that I did tell, it's not that she doesn't get upset. No, she got very upset, and she got upset in her own way, but that way was not destructive. So I told one of them I told before, the other one I didn't. So I guess it's based upon the personality of the woman, I suppose. What do you think, Mona?
I think too much in advance, when there's no like clear, like a year in advance. Oh, by the way, I might get another wife sometime next year, and you have no one lined up. You can't afford it. There's no point putting that in the relationship. There's no need to add that to marriage is already difficult sometimes, and there's really no need to talk about it unless it's gonna happen. Or you tell her before you marry her. If as a guy you know that one day you might want to have more than one wife, you need to tell her in advance before you marry her. Give her that option.
How do you mean? How do you mean? Explain that to me.
Let's say this is your first marriage.
Yeah.
And you aspire to have more than one wife, which happens. Some men do.
Yeah.
And you want that for yourself.
Yeah.
I think you should tell her before there's too many emotions involved.
Before the marriage or after the marriage?
I think before. Give her that option too.
Well, how about this scenario?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to before. This is what happened to me when I was 16. I asked the sheikh, put it in my contract that I can't marry again. Thankfully, he hit me in the ribs, said, shut your mouth. And my wife didn't hit, right? But that's how I felt then. But then you change afterwards. So then now what?
I was telling a friend of mine today, actually, we were talking about this topic. And I told her, men, maybe they say in passing like that. They say, oh, I'll get a wife, another wife, or in the future. But he might never marry again. There's no point, like, you don't know if you're alive tomorrow, let alone in 10 years' time. Most of your fears don't happen anyway as women. Most of your fears will not happen. Most men will not get married again. There's no point. To answer your question, when, I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. So basically,
in
conclusion, judge it on the woman. Judge it by the woman. That's what I'll say. But again, gentlemen, if you become a high value man, believe me, they'll fall back into line. They'll
come to you.
Yeah, they'll
come to.
Right, I've got another question here. Mona, what's your charge? Can you have a look at your phone? How much charge you've got? Your connection. Chal, how much?
Let me see that. That 13.
Just swipe down from the top. Right. You have more than one? 13. Okay. I'm going to send Amira down. I'm going to give you the charger. You have more than one child, but no one brings up the love distribution there. Can you use this as an example for love between wives? I'll answer this. Yes, this is exactly the same. Ladies, you can relate to, no matter how many kids you have, you don't love the first one less because there's now a new one. Gentlemen, the same.
No.
Right? It's unlimited. You can have one child, you can have 100 children. It makes no difference. Okay? It's the same with the wives, gentlemen. Sorry, ladies. If your husband gets married again, he doesn't love you less. It's not on a limiter. Yeah, it's just there's like a whole nother thing. In the same way.
It's just because it's romantic. It's a romantic love. That's why we don't get it.
Yeah.
We don't understand. Children is not on a romantic basis. So therefore we kind of understand, okay, if you have 2, 3, 4, 5 children, you love all your children. That's just
questions for you. Have a look at the screen. I'm going to read it out to you real quick. And it says, Yusuf, what do you think of Mahdi's controversial TikTok videos and the hate he receives for his output on all of this?
Well,
لحظة.
لحظة.
Yeah, go on, carry on.
Well, I've got mixed feelings because on the one hand, I know him. On the one hand, I know how he is. So I know him personally, which I don't agree with how he's viewed. So he's viewed in a certain misogynistic kind of way.
Abuser.
Yeah, abuser as well. He's not an abuser.
Abuse.
I wouldn't be with him if he was. So it does sometimes
make sure
I
you
get
say
frustrated.
nice things about me, woman. Make sure you say nice things about me.
I get frustrated with some of the comments if they're not real. But at the same time,
keep
we
telling
laugh.
the people good things about me. Yeah.
We do laugh a lot about the comments sometimes. I see how people judge without knowing. Like, it's so funny how they have misconceptions out of nowhere. Like, it's some views, I think the way he says it can come across as negative. But because I know him, I know he doesn't mean it like that. I've seen other sides of him as well. So how do I feel about it? He's his own man. I'm not here to, I know Mahdi. And I'm used to men like this. My dad's very blunt.
Hold on. You're used to abusive men? What's
Not
wrong with
abusive
you,
men, blunt men. Blunt, opinionated, alpha, a bit, I don't care what you think, kind of. I'm used to. I grew up with a father like that. Anyone who knows Iraqis know how blunt and opinionated we can be.
The whole country is Saddam Hussein, guys. Do you think Saddam Hussein didn't die? The whole country is Saddam Hussein.
So this is normal for me.
What advice would you give to women in dealing with a man like myself, a very headstrong type of man? How should she deal with him? What's the best way for her to deal with him?
It's not by having masculine energy you're going to get the best out of him. You're actually going to get the worst out of him. If you want to get the best out of men who are very masculine, you have to tap into your femininity and be respectful. Respectful is very important. Not controlling. Control comes from fear. So even if you don't like what he's doing, because they have a mind of their own, right? No one can make them do anything they don't want to do, or no one. It's just they have a mind of their own. So you have to be prepared to not try to micromanage or control him. It's very important. They will not accept it. They will never accept it.
So to relinquish and
yeah, but you can get the best out of them, though. You can get the best out of them. You can get the best.
You get the best. Submission is not weakness. Submission is strength for you women. So
I do love any of Laura Doyle's books regarding marriage, whether you're on monogamy, polygamy, it doesn't matter whether you're Muslim, non-Muslim, regarding being more feminine. And a lot of women have become quite masculine in their approach with men. And therefore, they feel like, oh, why doesn't he love me? Or why doesn't I don't feel loved? I don't feel this. I don't feel that. It could be you need to look at your own actions. Really, what are you doing?
Mona, I have another good question for you, Mona. I have another good question for you. It's from Cara, and the question is: how do you refrain yourself from not comparing Mahdi to your ex-husbands?
How do I refrain myself?
Yeah. Or do you even need to refrain yourself? Perhaps there's an assumption there that you need to refrain yourself. What's the thought process?
It's a very good question, but I don't know how to answer this. You, as a human, you can't help but compare. However, you need, usually as a woman, when you consider a new person, either they're better in certain ways than the previous one, or even if the previous one has better attributes, you try not to think about that. You just focus on the person you're with. You have to focus on the man you're with now. Look at his qualities. Not everyone's the same.
Before people jump to conclusions, I'll just make it very clear that. So, for example, I know as a matter of fact that Mona's previous husband was very good with DIY, as an example, like a handyman, rahimahullah, a handyman around the house, right? This is one of my kryptonites. I am absolutely useless with DIY. If a door's falling off its hinge, best believe it's gonna be like that for a very damn long time. And this is like this is a deficiency of mine. This is just a deficiency of mine, you know, and I need to work on that. And I'm at peace with it. It doesn't bother me. There's certain things that I have to be better at, and I'll allow your minds to wonder what you think that is. But when it comes to like DIY and around the house, even one of my other ex-wives, her husband was like a real handyman. And it is what it is. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm just not wired that way. I hate DIY stuff, you know.
Likewise with women, and we're all different. So some things I'm better at, some things, it's just you know, you're different. You have qualities the other one doesn't have, and he has qualities you don't have, etc. It's just, I don't think about it. I don't know.
And just to the gentleman here, this is why there is a greater desirability for a man to marry a virgin girl, a girl who's never been married before. I'll tell you why. Us men are like stamps. We stamp women. And to cite a study I was looking at recently, women who have had multiple sexual intimate partners tend to suffer from a higher rate of BPD, borderline personality disorders, and substance abuse. If there's too many stamps on this canvas, it messes up the internal thing up here. And this is why I say to you, gentlemen, women who've had multiple divorces, let them die alone. Leave them be. Let them die alone. Let them be an example for the younger generation not to behave the same. Don't marry them. They have been ruined. Men are stamps, and we stamp our women. And the more intimate partners she has had, the more stamped she has been, the more of an impact, a negative impact it has on her psyche. Women who've had multiple divorces, I'll say it one last time, let them die alone. Leave them be. Let them be an example for the new generation of girls to come that this is not the way to conduct myself.
I think
I know it's harsh.
to add to that, any man who's been through a lot of breakups can be damaged sometimes, especially if he initiates a lot of divorces.
Oh, guys, sisters, please, don't start talking about your husband better in bed and all of that, please. Yeah, you're disgracing your husband on a live. What is this? Come on, man, you're disgracing yourself. You're disgracing your husband. What comment is this? I would have been like, my ex-husband was better in bed. How do you think your husband's got? My ex-husband was better in bed, but my current husband is richer, so I can tolerate. Are you dumb? Are you stupid? What the flip is wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You know what? Get the hell off the live. Get off the live. Ladies, you can't talk like this. One thing you cannot tell a man, even if you're feeling it, is that your ex-husband was better in bed. Yeah? That's why I said to you, there's certain things I will not tolerate being second best in. Certain things. That's one of those things. You cannot come here on a live and disgrace your husband. You just disgraced him by saying your ex-husband was better in bed. You're not thinking, woman. You're not thinking. Flipping hell. A'udhu billah. Right. Okay.
A woman wouldn't tolerate that if it was said about her either.
Right.
If your husband came and said, you know,
but this
my
is very
ex-wife,
personal to men. It's very personal to men, Mona.
Regardless, I don't think a woman would like that either. Like,
I'm not saying she would like it. I'm just saying it's a very touchy topic.
So if your current husband comes and says, "Oh, my ex-wife was better than you," do you think she would appreciate that? No, she wouldn't.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. I'm just saying for men in particular, it's a very, very touchy topic. It's a very touchy topic. All right, hold on. I've got an easy question here. How did you split your time between wives so it was fair? Good question, Sadie. So how I did it before, basically 2-2-2, 2 nights, 2 nights, 2 nights. Now, I will say that one of my, this gets complicated. If a woman has made, if you're in a misyar type marriage, which is she has forsaken her rights, meaning you dictate as the man how much time you spend with her, then that changes things. But generally speaking, you keep it on a rota, either 2 nights here or 2 nights there, or 3-3, 4-4, whatever the setup is.
Well, we would
That's just how you do it.
When we were two, it split the week, right? So it was 3 days, 4 days, and then
That's
3
right.
days, 4 days, and so on.
4 days. Yeah, 3, 4, 4,
3,
3.
4.
3,
That's
4,
it.
4, 3. That's right. Yeah.
If they live in
Okay.
proximity, I think it's a one night each, isn't it? If they live in proximity, you just
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever you agree on, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. How much? Oh, it's a good question. I'll answer it real quick. How much does a man need to be making to be able to take care of 4 wives? Just the simple answer is this, gentlemen. However much it takes to take care of 1 wife comfortably, times it by 4. If you want 2 wives, double it. 3 wives. Let's say you need to be earning £40,000 a year to take care of 1 family comfortably, as a ballpark figure. Well, you need to be earning 160 grand a year. And you're going to have to figure out the taxes and how that all works out after that, because that money you make after 40 grand is going to be taxed at a higher rate than the money you made before it, right? If you've got a job. If you're a businessman, it's a different story. Anyway, just double it, triple it, quadruple it. Simple way to do it. Okay. Okay, Mana, this is a great question from Samar. A question to you both. How to keep the spark in a long-term marriage? I think that's a great question. I'll let you go first, Mana.
You go first.
No, I want you to go first. How do you keep that spark?
How do you keep the spark? Distance. Sometimes you need to have your own things going on. So he needs to have his own things. You have your own things going on, and make time for each other. Whether it's date night, whether it's evening, you know, when you put the kids to bed, you need to make that time for each other. Don't take it for granted. That's what I find with monogamy. You kind of take it for granted. You know, he's here next week. He's here next month. You know, you make less of an effort maybe, or you spend less quality time together because he's gonna be here tomorrow. Whereas from my experience in polygamy, you've got limited days. He's with you for 3 days, let's say. So you make the best out of it. You make the best out of that time, because you know he's going to be gone soon. Maybe you don't want to argue as much because he's only here for 3 days, and you don't want to ruin like that. Whereas on monogamy, you don't care. He's going to be here next month. He's going to be here next year. You kind of not. You need to make the effort to put that, you know, go out together. Distance and also quality time together.
Right. So just to build on what Mana's saying, love and desire are not the same thing. Love requires closeness. Desire, sexual desire, requires distance. Sexual desire is like a fire. Fire needs oxygen. Oxygen needs space. How do you put a candle out? You put something on top of it, and it kills the fire because the oxygen dies. Fire, for it to flourish, needs space. Desire requires distance, and it's a constant push and pull. Pushing and pull. Pulling, you come together for love. And then for desire, you need to pull apart again. And it's a constant yin and yang. It's not an exact science. You've got to figure it out in your own respective relationships.
Yeah.
But you've got to constantly come backwards and forwards.
Too much distance means you might not be as connected emotionally. And too much closeness, maybe you're not as connected physically. So you have to find the balance there. Every couple is different. Everyone's different. So you need to find your own kind of balance.
Very good. Excellent. Okay, next question. Let's move on. Bismillah. Okay, I'm gonna shut this shit down. He would need permission if it was written in the nikah paper that he isn't allowed to marry another. I'm gonna repeat this until the cows come home. Gentlemen, yes, the sisters have the right to put this in their marriage contract, and you have the right to not participate. The more of you that don't participate, the less of them that will make this request, because they'll be single. And there's a reason why I say don't do this. Number one, it puts you in a position of weakness. You are essentially saying to her, yes, Sayyidati, yes, my queen, I am so lucky to have you. There is absolutely no other woman on this planet who'd consider me anyway. I am so lucky to have you that of course I will agree to this. No. Habibti, you're replaceable, as all women are. And my wife is going to chime in and say, my wife is going to chime in.
Here we go.
You are replaceable. You are not the queen. You are not the princess Disney made out to you on the movies you grew up watching. Okay?
I have to disagree.
And the gents, lahza. See, she disagrees. Woman, what did I tell you? Don't disagree with me on the life. And but this is good. I like that you can see my wife doesn't share all of my opinions. You can see this. This is good. This is positive.
No, I
Anyway,
disagree.
to finish what I'm saying, gentlemen, you agree to this, you're putting yourself in a position of weakness. You don't know where you're going to be 5 years from now. Maybe you will be in a position to marry again. Maybe you will want to marry again. Maybe you will need to marry again, if you get my drift. You don't know. Don't agree to this. If you don't sign up to this ridiculous setup, you refuse, you abstain, you say, you know what, Habibti, sorry, next, there's someone else, there's another sister who won't mind me married
to add
again.
to the contract, I agree with you with the fact that you shouldn't put that in the contract. Even as a woman, you shouldn't ask it, because he can't, even if he agrees to it for the contract, well, it means that if he gets another wife, you leave, right? So he can do it anyway, because you cannot deny him something that Allah has made halal for him. So regardless, it will not stop him. However, what I disagree with is when you say people are, women are replaceable.
And elaborate. Well, tell me what you disagree with, because you've mentioned this to me before.
The role is replaceable. Like let's say a husband role. You're the husband today, tomorrow, or there was a husband yesterday, and today you are the husband. The role is there, but the person itself is the person. You can't replace a human, a person. You will disagree with that, but this is my view.
No, I understand what you're saying, and what
this
you're
is
saying
how this is how I see how I've
unique
experienced
individual.
it.
It's like okay, look at my thumb.
Like a chart. Yeah.
Look at my thumb. Can you see my thumb? I am the only person on this planet who has this print on my thumb. So in that perspective, I'm unique. But where I come back at you, Mona, is I say to you, but guess what? Everyone has their own unique thumbprint.
I understand that. It's like a child.
It's a meaningless sort of unique.
It's like a child.
Unique, but it's not unique.
It's like a child. Let's say, Allah keep that away from us. Let's say you lose a child. Does the next child who comes, does the new child replace the one before? Yeah, in terms of like their existence, they replace it, but they never replace the actual child. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
You can relate to that because you lost a child yourself. Can any of your other children who came after
there's a difference with children. The difference with children is this: you can't divorce your kids. You can divorce women. A woman can divorce a man. When you say I love you to a woman, and when a woman says I love you to a man, they're not saying I love you forever. They're simply saying I love you for now. Because the truth is, you don't know where you'll be. But with kids,
that's very true. That's very true. You can love someone today and then not love them tomorrow. That's true. Or someone dies and then someone else comes along and
But with kids, it's I love you forever. It doesn't matter what they do, how bad they become. You can't divorce your children.
But likewise,
this is why I say to the go on. When you were going to say likewise, what?
Likewise, the same way you say women are replaceable, men are replaceable, and this is a fact of life, and that's it. You have to accept it.
Yeah,
but I understand why you're saying it to the men. You're saying it to the men, as far as I understand. So they don't put all their eggs in one basket. It's not the end of the world if you can't get that specific girl. There's other girls. Is that what you mean by that?
No, it's a good question. Why do I say this to the men? I like this question. It's because men are the true romantics in a relationship. Women are far more practical minded. If a woman sees that this man is not producing, he's not providing, he's not living up to expectations that I had from him, she can detach from him, even if emotionally detached, even if he's good in many other things, right? But men, and I can speak from experience, we tend to love our women unconditionally. Like, she can do whatever, with the exception of like cheating and so on, but she can break a lot more boundaries, and we'll still love her. And this is why I'm very passionate about this, is to let the gentlemen know, the men know, is that women love practically. If I were to change today towards my wife that's on this live right now, and I was no longer the same person, I was no longer, I don't know, maybe I stopped practicing, maybe I'm less ambitious and so on, there's a strong possibility she would stop loving me and eventually move on. This is the reality. But us men, we're hopeless romantics. Once we love a woman, we will do anything for her. There's a good saying, men make money to spend on women. Women make money to spend on themselves. It's the truth. Like, we were built in our DNA to want to take care of
our children.
Or your children, sorry. So gentlemen, be careful. We have to love more like women. practically minded. I love you. Today I love you. But tomorrow I might not love you. And this is reality. You have to make peace with this. I think that, is that clarified, Mona?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. We're different,
Okay, let's
that's
go to the
all.
next question.
We're different.
Exactly. Okay, let's answer this question. One is for you. How does she feel about your lion-hearted ghira? How does it inspire her to respect you more? What do you make of that question?
Your ghira in terms of, how do you understand that? In terms of what?
Well, you know, I say things like, don't even say my wife's name, forget about asking me how my wife is, and so on and so forth. You know, I'm a very, ghira, by the way, for those watching, it translates to protective jealousy. So the protective jealousy a man has over his woman.
Too much of it would be.
Do you feel suffocated by me?
No.
Okay.
If it was too much, some men it's too much. But in your case, no. If it feels that you care about me.
Okay,
the
good.
fact that you don't want other men to see me, or don't want me to dress in a certain way, or this, that, I take it as, on the contrary, that you care about me. And I've heard a lot of women whose husbands don't care how they look, or what they do, where they go, or if other men look at them, and they actually despise that. They're like, why doesn't my husband care? Like, he doesn't care about me. So I find it attractive. I find it attractive when a man, you know, wants you to be for him and no one else.
I'll give an example, guys, and I'm gonna ask for your input on this. When I first married you, you used to like to wear multicolored hijabs, abayas, and so on, and I had to shut that shit down real quick. And I said, you know, we're not wearing multicolored hijabs and abayas and all of that. Like
we still have a thing. It's still our thing,
we still
isn't
go
it?
backwards and forwards in this, but we're sticking to the browns and the blacks. Yeah, it's just my personal preference. So.
Well, for that, I compromised on that, and I didn't mind. Like, certain things I can compromise on. This was one of those that
because you didn't. I remember you coming to me one day and you said to me, Mahdi, you know what? I didn't like it at the time, but I saw a sister today who's removed her hijab, and it didn't happen in one go. It happened slowly. First, she started with the multicolored hijab, then the hijab came here, then it went into a bun, then she took it off. And I remember you telling me, you said to me, Mahdi, you know what? I don't like that you basically put me in line like that and set those boundaries, but I have to thank you for it. Do you remember that discussion?
At first, I didn't like it because it's just not who I like, how I like to dress. But I did compromise on that. It's fine. It's not a big deal now. I got used to it. I think black is a bit one of those colors. As Iraqis, it's like death, you know. You only wear black when someone dies.
This is the West as well.
It's a bit like, why are you wearing black? Black is only for sadness. So plus, it depends how you look in black. I find black, like, it's, especially with this weather, it's already depressing outside, and then you wear black. But I got used to it now. It's not a problem anymore. What was your question? Sorry.
But the point was, when you saw that sister who removed her hijab, I remember you coming to me.
Yeah. I was thankful for. I was thankful that you care. I was thankful that you're there in case I slip, because this is something that, you know, I've seen a lot of sisters go backwards when it comes to their hijab. Like, the hijab goes smaller, tighter, and then off. And this is something, it could happen to anyone. It could happen to anyone. So I'm thankful to have you there. I'm not gonna say put me in my place, but you know, in case I go backwards, you're there. You know, I like that.
One of these questions for you: what languages do you speak?
Oh, okay. So my first language is Romanian, because my mum's Romanian, and then Arabic. After that, I studied in a French school in Algeria, so French is my academic language. And then I came to the UK. Oh, no, I went to Sweden, so I speak Swedish. and then I came to the UK. So actually, English is my fifth language. But now, because I've lived here so long, it's become one of my first languages. Yeah. It's just circumstances. My parents moved around, and, you know, I had to accommodate and learn the new languages. That's it.
Right. Okay. Mona, this is a great question for you from Sadie. Sadie always has good questions. Are you not worried that a younger woman will cause you a lot of stress. She may not be as mature as your current. Oh no, it's for me. She may not be as mature as your current wife. Mona, I want you to answer this first, and then I'm gonna answer it. I'm gonna answer it afterwards. Yeah.
So am I worried
guys,
that
I need to go to the bathroom. I'm gonna let Mona answer this. I'll be back in a second, Mona. So you answer this.
Okay, how do I see the questions anyway? Don't be long.
The question, no, I won't be long. Just, are you not worried a younger woman will cause you a lot of stress? How do you feel about this person?
No, because it depends on the character of the person. I understand what you're saying. The younger you are, the less mature you are. Yes, you have less experience. Yeah. I understand why it would come across as that. But from my experience, I had 2 co-wives. One was younger than me and one older than me. And it made no difference, even the older one. So how can I say this? It depends on the character of the person. You can be young and quite mature, or you can be older and quite immature. It just depends on the person. But I understand what you're saying. About immaturity coming with age. I do understand that. How do I see the questions? Do I need to go to the top? It's taking stage. Any questions? I can't see. Wait. So Sammy's asking, will this live be recorded? Probably. IGTV. Probably. I don't know. Mahdi will put it on his IGTV, I think. Any questions? Just put them in the comments, because I can't see the other questions. I can't see them. Not on my phone. Let me see my notes. I took some notes earlier today. See if there's anything I can add. I think for what I've seen around, the main concern for women is another woman coming and taking your man away from you. A bit like a mistress, or like he's cheating on you. That's not the case here.
This is a customer service announcement. Will the real Mahdi Tijani please stand up? Will the real Mahdi Tijani please stand up?
Got a good husband.
We're gonna have a problem here.
Okay, shall we wrap this up?
I've got a few more questions.
Okay.
Right. Yalla. Mona, someone says, do you ever want to strangle Mahdi?
Every day.
You know? Even every day, I Right. Okay. Okay, Mona, this question, I'm going to give it to you, really. Please talk about the benefits of polygyny for women. Mona. Your connection's dodgy, Mona. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Time for yourself. You're less, like, let's say you're the one who cooks at home every day for your husband. If he's not there, then you don't need to worry about these things. The fact that your relationship stays fresh even years down the line, really. You miss each other. You spend more quality time because your time is limited with each other. And what else can I think of? I think the not being as attached to a man is a good thing as well.
Okay, I want you to build on that. This is interesting. Not being too attached to
Too
a man.
attached to any
Explain that.
human being, but a man specifically, I think it's good. It's healthy
Mm,
not to depend too much on
mm.
a man.
Yeah, when that love gets too deep, it starts to create too much pain, right?
Yeah, I think you're more sensitive to all sorts of things, emotions. Your emotions take over. Whereas when you love moderately, you can love your husband very much. It's just like
Mm,
you kind of love him less when you know you're
mm,
sharing his love with other women. Like, I don't know how to explain it.
mm.
I
Okay,
think it's healthy.
I'm gonna come to this next question, Mona. There's two good questions from this gentleman. A friend who's let me just say, a friend who's married to 4 women highlighted to me that I marry 2, 3, or 4, or at the end of the ayah, which the end of the ayah says. But if you fear injustice between them, then just stick to one. Thoughts on this ayah? Okay, I'll give it to you real quick, guys.
Mahdi, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be back. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the principle of marriage in not just Islam, by the way, I believe it's the case in Judaism as well. I can't speak for Christianity, but I believe it's the case in Judaism. The principle, the asl, the foundation of marriage is polygyny. And hence why Allah mentions in the Quran, and marry 2, 3, or 4. But if you fear injustice, then 1. What can we take from this ayah without sounding like I'm a scholar or anything like that, because I'm not. But I know this ayah, and that is the foundation of marriage is 2 minimum, 2 women or 3 women or 4 women. But if you think you will not be able to be just between them, then stick to 1. Now, the sisters like to come back and say, but no man can ever be just. No, this is not true. This is simply not true. If it were true, Allah would have started with 1 first, marry 1 woman. But if you're elite, if you're exceptional, then you can marry 2, 3, or 4. The foundation is polygyny. Okay, now I know you've been raised in the West, and I've been raised in the West, and Disney told you different, but I'm just telling you what the foundation, what the principle of marriage is. Principle of marriage is procreation, right? Men can procreate at an infinitely quicker rate than women can. Men also go to wars and fight and die, and as a result, there's a surplus of women in comparison to men. So the principle of marriage is polygyny, not monogamy. But if you fear injustice, then stick to 1. That's the crux of that ayah. Right, I've always been against marrying someone with children. However, I'm so open to hear from you, Mahdi. I'm thinking I can just love kids that aren't mine. I think you're right at the end of that. Look, if you've never been married before, gentlemen, you need to marry a sister who also has never been married before. That's the first thing. Secondly, as a general rule, I don't recommend you marrying a woman who has kids. Yes, I have done it. And I did it before I had this mindset. And I did it at a time when this woman who had kids was my 3rd wife, the 3rd woman on my roster. Okay, so you start to bring down the entry barrier a little bit. So what I will say is this. If you've never been married before, gentlemen, you marry a girl who's never been married before. If you don't have kids, gentlemen, you marry a woman who doesn't have kids. If you don't, look, I have extensive experience of children. I got married at 16. I had my first kid at 17, my second kid at 18, my 3rd kid at 19, 5 kids by 23. Yeah? And then I married. So I've got extensive experience of children. So it's not a thing for me. It wasn't a thing for me coming into a relationship with a woman who has kids, because I have so much experience of kids. With that all being said, again, I still don't recommend it. I'll give you an example. One of my wives that I was married to, she had 2 children, 2 beautiful children. I don't want to go into too much details because I'm trying to protect their privacy, right? And after we divorced, we went our separate ways. I have continued to have no paternal rights to continue seeing them, speaking to them, going out, etc. I've got no rights to that. And it's heartbreaking. It's really, really heartbreaking, heart-wrenching. Especially me, I'm very committed to my women and to my children. Once I'm in, I'm in. And it really hurts having that pulled away from you. You need to be aware of this. You need to be aware of the fact that, okay, let's say you're raising girls that are not yours. Maybe one of them will accuse you one day of something or other. You don't know. They're not your daughters. You don't know. I have to face this reality every single day. I'm raising stepdaughters. This is my reality. This is a serious reality. I personally know someone who raised the stepdaughter who later on went to accuse him of sexual assault. Alhamdulillah, later down the line, he was cleared. All charges were dropped. But my point is this. It can happen. It can happen. They're not your daughters. Doesn't matter which way you want to spin it. They're not your daughters. You don't share their blood. They don't share your blood. There are many complications of mixing families together. Many complications. Now, my wife's a widow, and I always tell you there's a distinction between widows and divorcees. To the sisters who might be contemplating divorce, let me tell you this. The grass ain't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. It's greener where you water it. Yeah. You know? Okay,
100%.
that's those two questions. Mona, do you want to add anything there at all?
No, I agree. It's true. It's where you water it. It's never greener on the other side.
Okay, I'm going to answer this, Mona. Did you compare your wife's cooking? Prefer spending time with one rather than the other? This is a great question. So one of my ex-wives was an amazing cook. Like, she was the best cook. Mona knows this.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because
okay
it's not something I'm interested in. So
right. And
it's
another
okay.
one of my wives, was the best baker. She's an amazing baker.
She is, and that's fine.
I miss the cooking and I miss the baking. Right?
Sorry, there's no baking from my side.
Yes, there's no baking.
It's not my interest. It's not something I'm interested in. You know, I have other qualities. They have their qualities. Everyone's different, and that's fine.
Right. So this is it. Like, it is what it is. It is what it is. But in terms of preferring spending time with one rather than the other, yes. I preferred even back then spending time with Mona than I did with the other two. You know, it is what it is. But there's many reasons for that, for which I don't want to go into because I don't want to disclose anything about my previous wives. Did you meet each other's kids before marriage? Yes. Good night, Sadie. Have a good evening. We're going to wrap this up soon. Let's see if we can get one more good question. Okay, I've been through all of this. Okay, khalas, I think we've done everything. Mona, is there something you want to add to this?
I don't know.
Before we wrap up.
I think a lot of people think they're what's the word? I've lost it now. They're entitled. I think a lot in marriages, I'm entitled this, I'm entitled that. It's a very entitled generation, and thinking that I can always get better. There's more out there for me, you know, and that creates problems in marriages because they always think this, like you said, the grass is greener elsewhere. It's not. It's what. Better. Yeah, it's a bit of an entitlement mentality from both women and men, and I think it's damaging in relationships. And you have to work on your marriage. You know, you make you get what you make of it. Like if you put effort into your marriage, that's it.
Absolutely. Jazakallah khair. Idris, we've addressed that question earlier in the live. Just I'm going to put this live on my feed. You'll be able to watch it then. Mona, Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair, Hayati. Thank you.
Food on, babe. I'm starving. You put the food on.
It's Valentine's Day. It's your turn.
Babe, I don't give a damn. Put the damn food on. You know what I mean? Like, yalla, assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
All right, guys. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you for joining. And again, if you have questions, feel free to put it in my inbox. I'll have a look at them when I can. Gentlemen, I'm on Patreon. If you want to take a deep dive with me on these topics, my Patreon's in my bio. And if you want, ladies, sisters, if you want to message my wife about any of these topics we've discussed, feel free to message that account. I asked her to create a new account today because I just did. I didn't really want her coming on her personal account, but that account is live. So feel free to go and message her if you want to. If she can help you, then she will help you, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I'm starving, bro. We've been here 2.5 hours out. Woman! I'll catch you guys on the next one. Yallah, take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.